Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This video was completely done. I was uploading it. I had rendered it. It was ready to go. But one of my viewers sent me this, and kaboom, ka-freaking boom. Trump got rolled here by Joe Rogan. Trump shows him his fake, non-existent scar. And so let's just watch this here. But for all you, I don't want to call you fake truthers, but not necessarily shills, but all the people that made videos, all you guys who left hostile comments, all you people that claim to be truth seekers and didn't even contemplate, didn't even suggest to yourself, didn't even explore the idea that this thing could be fake when it was so WWE. It was so fake. And Trump's such a lying piece of crap. He's just such a, tool. And because of your belief in Trump or whatever your reasoning, you didn't even explore the idea that this could be fake. This is for you because you're getting schooled, son.
You even have a scar on your ear? You got anything on there?
I do.
What do we say? What do you got
So, right over here.
there? Oh, it's a tiny little
See,
mark.
His bandage didn't even cover that, right? His bandage, I'll pull that up when we're done here. But you see where he's pointing here? Like he's pointing in different places here.
Oh, it's a tiny little
see,
mark.
He's pointing different places. And so he had that big maxi pad over his ear at the convention. And when they went to the hospital, they said it didn't need stitches. The blood had already dried, and there was no evidence of a cut. I'll show you. I have the cut there somewhere. I'll show you the picture after we're done with this. And it was just so fake. And so let's go through this again, right?
Anything on there?
I do.
What do we say? What do you got
So, right over here.
there? Oh, it's a tiny
He's pointing to a bunch of different places. It's tiny.
little
See,
mark.
it zicked right there.
Yeah. But it healed up pretty fucking good.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's little.
It's little. It's little. It's a little bit little. It's little. Kaboom. Okay, so let me interrupt what I'm doing here. And let's go back to a week after, or whatever this was, when he dropped this. He said this a number of times, right? And so here it is.
They keep saying he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week, I took a bullet for democracy. What did I do against democracy? Crazy.
Okay, so this was a planned line, first of all, right? This was a set, rehearsed line that he was going to say, right? There was a big zinger. And he was supposed to say, what did I ever do to democracy that they're saying this? Instead, he said, what did I ever do for democracy? And so that's a Joe Biden type gaffe, right? But that's not the big problem here. The problem is this taking a bullet, right? Are you saying this non-existent scar that didn't need stitches is taking a bullet? Come on, bro. Let's watch that again.
It healed up pretty fucking good.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's little.
Okay, so this video is mostly a hammering Kamala and the people behind her. Like, this was mostly a Kamala video. And, I talk a little bit about Trump here or there, but it was mostly about them hammering toxic masculinity. I get into that, and how that's really an attack on testosterone in men. And, I've covered this a little bit, but I focus more on it. And then all the insincerity and how Kamala Harris isn't, a real person, right? She's not authentic. And so that's how the video was going to go. But then he went on Joe Rogan and exposed this fraudulent, fake assassination attempt. It was so fucking fake, right? But let's say you believe it's real. He has exaggerated the shit out of this thing, right? That's not taking a bullet for democracy, right? And so first of all, he made the blood, the fake blood, all that stuff that happened. It was all fake, right? But if you believe in it, he's saying it nicked him. And so, like, it's just, that's not, like, imagine calling in sick to work because you had that small of a cut, right? Like, I talk about how when I do farming work, I cut myself all the time worse than that. And I just, tape it up, put a Band-Aid on it, whatever, or sometimes not even that. And I go out and finish the job, right? Sometimes I can't find a Band-Aid. I wrap a paper towel around it and I just keep on going. and I'm not like some big tough guy. People do that every day, right? People play hurt. And then he's demeaned the military. He's demeaned people like John McCain. And so he has this little tiny non-existent scar because he didn't get hit by anything. And again, we're going to get back to this. I just decided to drop these things here. And so on top of it, he then milked the crap out of this with a bandage, this maxi pad he put on. And I'm going to say these things again over here, so I don't want to get too repetitive. And then he put a small Band-Aid on after that. So he had a Band-Aid on for 13 days, and he's talking about it, taking a bullet. Do you think he deserved a Purple Heart? Remember, some guy gave up his Purple Heart to Trump for this non-existent nick. He's admitting that he nicked him, and it didn't even nick him, right? And so he's bullshitting you, right? He's exaggerating this thing. At the very least, he's totally exaggerating this thing. And I said all along there was nothing there, and that he should have showed it. But he didn't. And so now it comes out on Joe Rogan. It's a little. And so that's wonderful. That's the first part here. It's fake as fuck. You clowns. Everybody who didn't, at least, you just have to question things. That's what your job is as a truther. And if you just put this out here like this actually happened, and they, think about the implications of this guy being president. Like, he's a part of this, right? And if he's a part of it, like, what does that mean? Like, he's not just a part of it. He defrauded you. He waved the flag in your fucking face and pretended to be a hero and a patriot. And there was nothing that happened to him. He didn't get hit. There was no bullets. Come on, bro. And, when he put that giant frickin' maxi pad on his ear and he came out in the convention, 3-4 days later, then he came out with a Band-Aid even after that. He had a Band-Aid for 13 days. A cut that didn't need stitches, that stopped bleeding almost immediately. As soon as he stood up, there was no blood. I've shown you it before. I'll start the next video with this because, we'll start over again. And I'll cover some of this, I think, probably. I haven't seen this interview. Now I want to watch it because it seems like he's not, just giving Trump an easy pass here, right? And so there was nothing there. And so when he put a big maxi pad on his ear, for what? Like, there's like, why did he need such a giant bandage on his ear during the convention? And then a smaller bandage after that. Like, he's showing you right here. He's showing you 3 different places where it is, right?
So, right over here.
Where? Like, he's pointing the whole, like it hit this whole ear? No. You're saying it hit here? All right, let me go to this other picture. So I have another picture that shows you Trump's ear before. So you would think that this was where the bullet hit, but it didn't. Because his Trump is naturally shaped like that. There's this video of his ear, what it looked like before, right? And so this is... the fake blood that they put on there. And so he pointed to this whole area over here. Like, he rubbed his finger back and forth. Like, he didn't know where it hit. And after they took off the maxi pad, they put the bandage here. And so he had this when he did an interview with Jesse Walters. And he put this bandage on for 13 days. And this thing, again, no stitches. So it basically completely healed. Joe Rogan sees there's no scar. And he's pointing to it like there is one. And, Trump, if he was going to be, if he's going to get into it, he should have, there's my alarm. He should have just, the guy should have just let him take out a chunk of his ear. Like, you have to do that. Like, just a little bit. No one would even notice. But he didn't want to do it. He's too much of a bonus hole for that. at the convention. And when they went to the hospital, they said it didn't need stitches. The blood had already dried, and there was no evidence of a cut. I'll show you. I have the cut there somewhere. I'll show you the picture after we're done with this. And it was just so fake. And so let's go through this again, right?
Thing on there?
I do.
What we say? What we got
So, right over here.
there? Oh, it's a tiny
He's pointing to a bunch of different places. It's tiny.
little
See,
mark.
it zicked right there.
Yeah. But it healed up pretty fucking good.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's little.
It's little. It's little. It's a little bit little. It's little. Kaboom.
They keep saying he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week I took a bullet for democracy. What did I do against democracy? Crazy.
Okay, so I ended up doing a long introduction about just other stuff that's very pertinent to all these things. And this is kind of an epic video. And again, I want to make this mostly about Kamala, which I'll show you. But if you understand what both people are saying, Kamala's calling him a fascist. J.D. Vance is, there's a headline I just saw 2 minutes ago. It came out. J.D. Vance was saying that the leadership we have now in the country is more dangerous to America than foreign enemies, right? And this is the rhetoric that's out there. Most people realize or believe that we're in a apocalyptic time, right? And they wrongly believe, and many of you wrongly believe, that if one side wins, they can avoid the apocalypse. But if the other side wins, we're going to have it, right? And that's not how things like this work. And I've said this before, and everybody knows this, right? And there's two things to this. That, you look at these two pieces of shit, right? These two horrible people and these two puppets, and they're incompetent, stupid, and, fake, and, Kamala's fake, and Trump's just a piece of shit asshole and a liar and a flim-flam man. And people think, well, sometimes you need a villain to do dirty work, or sometimes you need a person to fight dirty, like some dirty Harry bullshit thing, or they think that he's your villain in Trump, or Kamala Harris is she might not be great, but at least she's not Trump and anybody but Trump, right? This whole attitude. But if everything that they're saying is true, Joe Biden saying that we're fighting for the soul of America, all the things, the rhetoric that's being placed out there, this is the most important election of our time. You think either one of these dunces could save, you need a great person. If we had, if we were facing an epic collapse type situation, we need a great person. And neither one of these two people is great in any way, shape, or form. And they're both frauds. They're both, they got to where they are, not by merit, not by being good at what they do, but by bullshitting or Kamala Harris getting on her knees. So that's the first part. But the second part is even more important. And when you have a country and you have a family and you have a team and you have, whatever it is, right? And you have dissension, like when you and your spouse are fighting, or you and your siblings are fighting, or you and your classmates or workmates, your coworkers are fighting, workmates. When you and your coworkers are fighting, you can't get anything done, right? I mean, we all know that. Like when we're fighting with our, the people in our lives, if you're fighting with your wife or your husband, everything in the family stops. Like it just becomes all about the fight, right? I mean, what happens during divorce? Do you make a lot of progress in your life outside of divorce, right? Because all your energy goes into, bad mouthing and fighting, and you're just like you gotta like put everything else on hold, just so you can go into this hate fest, right? I mean, people have more cooperative divorces, and when they do, then you can be productive. But when you just hate each other the way the Democrats and the liberals hate each other, I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans hate each other, nothing can happen. The country can't move forward. because we're embroiled in division. And so if America was going to be saved, you'd have to bring America together. And the Democrats and the Republicans aren't going to do that. They're not going to ever come to terms with that. And most people hate the other side so much they would rather see America destroyed than actually save it. And so that's what you're dealing with here. So if you think Trump is going to save America, come on. Like, be realistic. In what way could he save America? Other than the bullshit that, he's lying to you constantly. And he's exaggerating, he's exaggerating this bullshit thing, this WWE fake shooting thing, the fake assassination attempt. And it's, he's going to take your guns. Like, if he's doing this kind of bullshit and you're falling for it, then how far off is him taking your guns? Because he doesn't care about your guns or you or anything, right? And so he's going to be your patsy. He's going to be their patsy. He's going to be the fall guy. I think he's going to win. And then Trumpers are going to be like, oh, my God, we didn't know who he was. Yeah, you did. You just chose to ignore it. All right, so I have this introduction here, and then we have, this is like an epic video. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So something, I woke up this morning, somebody had asked me a question about DSMO, and I woke up a little bit stressed out about it, and I'll tell you why. Oftentimes people think that I'm more of an expert than I actually am, right? And that's why I always am concerned or, make it clear to people that I'm not recommending anything. I'm not prescribing anything. I'm not telling people what to do. I'm not, in any of these kind of things that I say, because people will misinterpret based in their own, whatever's going on in their lives. An example of this was, maybe this is like 2 years ago, and there was a woman, I don't know if she still watches my videos, but she used to comment quite regularly, and she was living off the grid. And she would comment about it, and I scan the comments, like I've had over 1 million comments, and, I had a sense of some of the things she said. And her husband wrote a comment jokingly saying that she, because of my videos, made him move with her off the grid and, I don't know, maybe quit their jobs. I don't know what it was, right? And which, they went for living in the city, maybe like some big city like Atlanta or something. I don't know, something like that. But she had heard something in my videos and misinterpreted it, right? Because I'm certainly not recommending anybody do that. And I know people have done that. I had Facebook friends who had, not because of me, but just they weren't listening to my videos. And this was years ago, even before I probably was making videos like this, or my channel became popular. But they had done that, they were living in national parks. They were going from one national camping grounds to another. And eventually they, it just got too much for them, and they went and got jobs at Walmart or something like that, right? And so I don't know why she did what she did, but it wasn't because I'm recommending it, right? And I don't know why he went along with it, her husband. People want to hear what they want to hear, right? And what I know about people is that they may think that they're waking up in terms of being truthers to their indoctrination, but they're just looking for, they're sheep that are just looking for a new shepherd. And we see this with the Donald Trump phenomenon, right? These people all think they're woke. They all think they're, they've woke up. They're awakened. They all think they know what they're doing now. They're these people who are Trumpers. They all think they see through the lies of the system, right? And that Donald Trump is this, savior, and he's clearly not, right? And it's because they need it. They need something like that. They create something. They create false idols. They create false masters and gurus, teachers and prophets and whatever it is, because people need that. They don't do it for themselves, right? And what I do here, I have a system where I connect to the divinity within me, and I also do research. And, I might be a little bit smarter in some areas. I might be a little bit better in some areas. I might be good at reading patterns. So there might be some things that I'm just better than, you at it in certain areas of whatever this thing is that I do, right? And I do it professionally, and I know how to do research and find things, but I'm not here to do people's Google research for them, and I'm certainly not here to make decisions for people, right? And I don't prescribe anything. I'm not, saying what you should do with your life, even in terms of the Sajmark meditation that I do, right? And so with the DMSO, my wife had watched a number of videos on it. There's lots of things out there, alternative medicines that people make claims about. And I've tried a lot of these different things, and they work or they don't work. I don't think I've experienced anything negative from them, so there's that. And I don't know if there's anything negative from DMSO, but there could be. I don't know with any of these things. DMSO seems a little bit more powerful. It's hot to the touch, like it's like something. As soon as you pour it in your hands, it's hot, which my wife and I are interested in. And it has a strong odor, like a powerful odor, like it's almost like a chemical. And so, I was hesitant to, a little bit cautious when using it because it wasn't like just putting on some, something that, some cream or something. It was, there was something there that I thought there was some power in it, right? But I have had a shoulder issue. I woke up and I hurt my shoulder just sleeping because I'm old, right? I'm 60. And I woke up, my shoulder was hurting. And I couldn't sleep on that side. And my body, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd want to turn over. And I'd turn over on that shoulder and it would hurt. And I, couldn't throw like I, sometimes throw the ball to my dogs. And I had trouble doing that. It was probably, 6 months to a year ago. And it slowly started getting better. And I started exercising. We got a pull-up bar. So, I started hanging from the pull-up bar. I started doing all these things to get my shoulder right. I bought some, some like dumbbells, and I've been doing, and I've just been getting in better shape. My heart, whatever issues I was having with the rapid heartbeat and things post-COVID, and my, blood sugar and things, it seems like I'm stronger now than I was, 12 years ago. And my shoulders slowly started to get better. And then we got the DMSO, and I don't know if it was the DMSO, but my shoulder got, now I'm sleeping on it. I don't know if I think it's almost completely better. It did make a weird sound the other day. Like I said, you get older and my older shoulder hurts too a little bit. Like it just is those things. I'm always having some sort of, aches and pains. And once in a while I have some lower back issues and it seemed to help with that. And so I felt like the DMSO was working. My wife had similar results. But we certainly weren't experts and we couldn't verify the things that my wife had done most of the research on it, and I had watched one video. She wanted me to watch a 60 minutes video, and the other video we're going to watch when we get a chance to watch it together when we're in the car or something, or at least listen to it while we're in the car. But there are the claims that people make, and then there are the, the actual effects of it. And you never know if there's going to be side effects, or you never know if it's going to work for you. See, some things work for some people and don't work for others, right? And so while I was watching the 60 Minutes video, I remember that there was a long-term viewer of my channel had wrote and asked me if I knew anything about. I think she and her daughter were suffering from some chronic pain, right? Maybe it was a message on Facebook or Instagram or something. And I didn't have any answer. Of course, I'd like to help people, but I'm not a doctor, and I don't. I think sometimes people think if I can pray for them, that they'll experience relief. But in the Sajmark system that I do, pain is often a part of it, like physical pain. The masters of the system suffered physical pain. The third master system, Charji, had these severe migraines, debilitating migraines. And he would learn to work through them, which is like a miracle. And he would have them for days, like he wrote about it. And they published his diaries. And he talked about it. And, Babaji, it was his spiritual master. And Charji was doing all this work for the mission. He was the secretary of the mission, doing all these, running the organizational. He was a corporate executive, so he was a very successful person. And he was running the, all the structure of the organization. and also he was doing a lot of spiritual work, and Babaji had a lot of affection for him, and so he really worked hard spiritually to try to figure out why these migraines were happening to Charji. And he also had some doctor who was like like a Ayurvedic doctor who he thought was like the best doctor in the world, somebody who's a real healer. And he said, between the two of us, we should be able to figure this out and get rid of your migraines. And he did some like spiritual, whatever, like reading of the situation. He said it seems to be a nerve that's running up your neck into your brain or whatever that's causing the issue. And he did all kinds of spiritual cleaning and, whatever he could do. And this doctor was trying to help Charji and with his, migraines. At some point, Babaji said, this is God's will. Like, we can't fix it. He said, you're just going to suffer this, and, no matter what we do, right? And there's these whispers of the brighter world messages I've talked about where, Babaji's been dead since 1983. And this French woman started to receive channeled messages from him and other spiritual, beings. And she cranked out about 20,000 of them, right? And, in those are these prophecies that I believe in. But, it's some French woman I never met who is claiming that she's, the mission's claiming that she's receiving these messages from beyond the, the brighter world. And so, I believe in them, but, they're not, until the things start happening, right, the prophecies. But she has suffered severe pain when she was a young girl. She grew up kind of wealthy, and she was wealthy, she had some wealth, her family. And she was riding a horse, and she fell off the horse and hurt her back. And then, she recently died, and I think she was probably in her 70s. She died in 2018. And so she was born probably 1950 or so. And the French doctor, as she described, was a butcher, messed up her back even more. And she suffered severe pain, almost like a person who was in a wheelchair. She couldn't leave her apartment. She was just in pain all the time. And in one of the messages, one of the interactions she had, was a spiritual being that they called the foreigner, because this spiritual essence came from beyond this realm of existence. Like, there's a level of spiritual, beings that are here working on the material universe and are, whatever. They're on a realm of existence. But then there's higher and more subtle realms of existence where you have to like cross a barrier, higher levels of spiritual consciousness that have nothing to do with the material world. But somehow he came back from this, crossed this barrier, and he said to this person, this medium, that he could get rid of all her physical pains, that he could just rework her whole body just with a thought. And he couldn't do that because Babaji wouldn't allow it. Babaji, said that, and Babaji was in a etheric form himself, and he's supposedly in charge of this whole, this realm of existence. And he said that it was necessary for her to have this physical pain, even though, he didn't want her to have it. It was just important for her to have it for whatever reason, to do these, partially it helped her be a really good medium. And it was also helping her on a spiritual level burn off some of her, past whatever, some scars and things. And even though this pain is undesirable, it was necessary for her, right? And so, like, I don't, in the Sajmark system, there's no miracle cures, there's no any of these things. In fact, miracles are thought to go against God's will. That, God wills something, and if something is blocking your spiritual progress, then it can be removed. A disease, or it can be minimized. If it's, some sort of disability in terms of it's hurting your ability to move forward spiritually, then something can be removed, or it can be minimized at least. It can't be removed completely, but it can be minimized so that you can move on spiritually, right? And so only things that are preventing you from evolving spiritually can be changed or removed. Everything else you have to go through because it's for your benefit. It's a part of your soul's plan and part of your divine process, right? So, we all would like to live pain-free lives. We would all like to live, good lives. we'd all like to, live forever, but sometimes the things that we suffer are really helping us. Misery is divine blessing. In fact, those things that we suffer are things that make us who we are. And it's our suffering that makes us into more compassionate people and, more realistic and practical people. And the Sajmark system, there's this like, I don't know, saying or whatever it is, principle, illit, killit, and zillit. I think these are Sanskrit words. And they mean having a little less money than you need, a little, a poor health, and critics. And each one of these things, the less money and the poor health, help you to be humble and realistic and not become, if you're too strong and you like arrogance, there's a level of dependence you have to have on God just to get through. If you have a little bit of nagging pains and a little bit of these things, where you're not, worries and things like this, that you have to surrender to God. Where people who have too much wealth and, too much physical strength, they're just, they don't become compassionate, humble, just obvious things like this, right? And having critics helps you not to get, a big head and, think too much of yourself. And, these are benefits, right? Having things like this. And to go along with this, the Sajmark meditation, or the gratefulness meditation that I have this gratefulness meditation thing that I've done to sort of preserve it because the organization's gone corrupt, right? And I've benefited from the system tremendously. Like, I believe in the system 100%. Like, I know what it's done for me. And I know what it does. Like, I've experienced the system. But when I tell other people about it, I have no idea if it's going to work for them because the majority of people try it and quit. I don't know if anybody's been ever harmed by the system. I don't think that's happened. They might perceive it because of whatever, right? Like, sometimes the system pulls up things that aren't, that are already there. They're in the person's internal spiritual system to be cleaned off. And people experience it as being negative, the cleaning process. But it's really something that's helping them. But even with that, people quit and they don't enjoy it. They don't seem to benefit from it, or it scares them, or whatever it is, right? They don't get it. I don't know what it is for each other, for other people. But the majority of people who try it don't stick with it. I'm talking about like hundreds of people to one person. The people who get it and really believe in it and really experience the benefits and stick with it. It's very rare for people to do that. So, that is what it is. But I believe that this system is the best system for solving the problems with humanity because it helps people change. But I also know from working as a counselor and just being a human being and struggling with change myself, personal change. And I think I'm actually, one person who's, somebody who's pretty good at changing in terms of I'm open to change. Like, we all struggle with it. We're all stubborn. We all have our issues. But, in terms of humanity, I have no faith in them changing or wanting to change. I know some people do. It's rare. In fact, I have almost negative faith. I have faith that people won't change, right? People don't want to change collectively. And so there's 100% faith in the Sajmark system and 100% faith in human beings. Not 100% because human beings are more of the, they're the X factor. They're the anomaly. And sometimes people surprise you. And so I don't know how this is going to play out. I think there's a solution. I believe there's a solution, wholehearted solution, based in my, the cleaning process and the transmission that's given the Sajmark system. But it only works if people want to change. People are desperate to change. And maybe when there's there's apocalypse and there's dire conditions and people get a big slap of reality in the face, they'll want to redeem themselves and change. But, I wouldn't hold my breath because, human beings have just this proclivity for the lower, right? To embrace the lower and to push off the higher. We all have a higher nature. We all have a spiritual side. We all have the best version of us that's waiting to emerge. We all have this potential. We all have the potential to be a saint or a higher developed soul, right? Master Charji, the third master system, he wrote about this. In India, they have this one sort of spiritual type of, the Sajmarg meditation that I do. There's spirituality that it exists in Hinduism. The rest of the religions, they tamp it out. Like if you become a spiritual person in Christianity, they usually torture and kill you. Like if a Christian saint, you think about all these Christian saints that have later become saints, Catholic and Christian saints, they were tortured by the powers that be because they don't want spirituality in that religion. And all the other religions are like that. But in Hinduism, they have the occasional saint. They have the occasional person, quite a number of them, right? And they have a pathway that exists for you to become a saint. There's systems within the religion, and there's systems that will help people become saints, right? Various, practices that are available. And so he was lamenting because he realized, this is before he was the master of the system, that the majority of Indian people that were practicing this religion would rather be sheeple, and they would submit to some fake fucking guru, some piece of shit guru, who was they would bargain with the guy, and he would say he would do these spiritual, rites or rituals for them. He would give them some spiritual condition, and they would have a negotiation of how much it was going to cost, and it was all bullshit. It was not real. And they lived these kind of lives where they falsely believed that this fake guru, somebody like Trump, was going to deliver on some promises when they had the opportunity to connect to God directly and rise up and become a spiritual person. And he was lamenting it, like how, people just embrace the lower. When they have right in front of them, they would all come across this opportunity, right? Even so much so that, Babaji would make these people preceptors so they could do what he was doing, which was transmit to a person and give these meditative sittings. So it would work where you sit in front of, the preceptor sits in front of one person, if it's an individual sitting or a group of people, and he transmits to the people and he reads the situation, their condition, and then this idea comes to you what you need to do to help clean the person's internal world. You're cleaning their spiritual essence and opening up the possibilities for them to move forward spiritually, right? Cleaning away anything that's blocking their path, and then transmit to them so they could experience God's love. And everybody needs God's love, and it's when you feel it, when you feel love, it's like it's something that nurtures you, like on a very fundamental, your spiritual essence. And everybody needs love. Everyone needs this, divine essence. And so it's a brilliant system, right? And he went to this guy, he had made a preceptor. This is back in the probably 1950s or 60s in India. And the guy had like a ratty picture, like a, not good picture of Babaji, like taped up to a wall. And him and his people that he was supposed to giving sittings to were sitting there thinking the picture was going to somehow transmit to them, right? And Babaji he was a simple guy, a nice guy, and, he tried to always look, he worked to look at finding the saint within every person, the best of each person. But he had this like, what the fuck moment, right? Where he's like, well, you got this picture up there when I gave you the ability to clean and transmit, right? Like, this isn't about worshiping a person, which is what people want. People want to worship somebody else, and they want to give up their spiritual sovereignty. They want to give up their, they want to be sheep, right? People want to be sheep. They want somebody to solve the situation for them. They want some miracle. They want to be promised something so they can have, all the shit that you see with Trump and all the things that are going on. They want some, pie in the sky thing, and they don't want to work for it because they don't, they want to be given a fish. They don't want to learn how to fish because each person can do what I'm doing. Like, you can connect to God directly in terms of what I do here. And you can use this connection. It takes some work and effort and years of internal work and looking inside yourself and opening up to this possibility of, divinity within you. And you can connect to God and your soul. You can start navigating your life and making choices and getting information brought to you through this process, right? Like, it's there available to everybody, but people don't want it. They want to stick to something through their own weakness, through their own arrogance. You know, my wife has a friend who's a doctor, and I don't know how the exchange went, but the woman said that she wanted to get her rooster, right? You know, the COVID, back when COVID was a thing. And my wife said, you know, I don't think that's, you know, I don't think that's good, right? Whatever she, you know, was talking about the things that we believe in, right? And again, I don't know. We don't know, like whatever. But people have to make their own decisions. But this woman said, oh no, she's a scientist. She's a doctor. She's a scientist. She knows more. And it's a good thing. And she couldn't wait to get it. And she started to get really sick, like debilitating illnesses. And now she's, I mean, that was like a couple of years ago. And my wife saw her, I guess her husband or her boyfriend, and I guess she saw her and said, you know, and the woman had just come back from the doctor. She hadn't seen her doctor in a while, and she had been getting even worse. And she says, all these chronic illnesses now. You know, she's probably in her late 60s or, you know, yes, like late 60s. And she's completely fell apart. And the doctor said, you know, you haven't seen me in a while, so that's why you're suffering. And so she was going back the next day to see the doctor. And I'm like, you know, what could the doctor have not done the day before that he was going to do the next day, right? Like, you know, what kind of pills or what kind of, you know, and it seems like every time she goes to the doctor, she gets worse, right? So my wife mentioned DMSO. And the woman said, oh, that's been around forever. Now, we don't know if DSMO would help this woman, but you know, there's claims in these videos that it would, right? And again, we've just started to use it. But this woman knew about it, like because the medical community knew about it. She's a doctor. But she's going with the system, even though by all appearances, the system isn't working for her, right? Like she's, you know, she's dying, and she's dying badly, and with all kinds of chronic illnesses right after the whole thing, you know, and maybe it caused it, maybe it didn't. Like you know, it's not, I don't have the scientific proof, but to us it looks like it did, right? And at the very least, the medical system isn't helping her. Whatever she's taking, whatever she's doing, she's getting worse. And, you know, where she's lower and lower functioning and more miserable, right? And the opportunity possibly was, you know, something else. Maybe it was DMSO, right? Maybe it was just not, you know, not doing what the medical community recommended and doing her own research and figuring things out and using some critical thinking skills. But she, you know, is bowing to that system like so many other people are. A system that's crushing them and killing them and you know, not just physically, but enslaving them. And they just don't want to look for something more. And they certainly don't want to change and embrace their higher nature. And that's, you know, I mean, I'm painfully aware of that. And so what I offer here is the same thing that I do for people to learn how to do it. And it might not work the same way for you, and you might not be as good at it in some ways, but it works, you know, for you in some way, right? Like just like for me, you know, there's things that I'm good at. There's things that, you know, other people are maybe, there's people who are more psychic. There's people who are more, you know, they have, you know, this woman who was a channeler, right? There's, you know, there's different levels of, so you have different talents, but there's a way for you, for everyone to connect to the divinity within and work at it. Like, you know, instead of looking for external experts and external people to tell them what to do. But people don't want that. Like people don't want to be, you know, on their own and be responsible for their own lives and connect to their soul and listen to their soul. Their egos will block it. And that's why humanity sucks right now. People don't want to change. And I'm going to, you know, get into it. This is what I get into in every video, is people who are not listening to the divinity within them, not connecting to their souls, and just doing bad, wrong shit, going in the wrong direction. Like that's everything I cover here. It's just that simple. That's what they do in Hollywood, they do in politics, they do in business. You know, they know they're doing wrong. Some part of them knows they're doing wrong. And they do it anyway. And it hurts them, and they, you know, they just go along with it. And so, yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in there. So in terms of, you know, people looking at me, it's being some sort of, you know, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to prescribe anything and give people advice, because that's not my responsibility. You know, I saw this with Master Chargy. You know, got access to letters people wrote him. And, there was a process where in the early stages I would write to him. And even before he answered, I would get a spiritual answer. It's like, you're writing to God. You're putting something in front of God. And eventually, as he got older and his health deteriorated, I didn't need to write to him at all. I could just put whatever the situation was, to God. People do this in their own way in their religion. Some people have a way of putting things in front of God. And then God gives you the answer. And oftentimes the answer is what you don't want to hear because you would have got it right away. You're resisting the answer. You don't want to hear the answer, right? You're resisting it in some way. And so, God is often warning you, and your soul is warning you, and warning all of us collectively, and we don't heed the warnings. We know we're doing the wrong thing, but we just don't want to hear it. We just want to do what we want to do. And that's why humanity's fucked right now, and until that changes, there's bad shit coming. And it's not bad shit because people are being punished. It's the consequences of bad choices. It's what happens when you make the wrong choice. And when you let your ego, and we let our collective egos run things instead of doing what our soul intended for us to do when we came down to incarnate as people. And so, I was told in a past life that there's, that I came down as some, spiritual being. I don't know if this is true or not. Like, I've had some past life memories. There's a woman who was a psychic, and she was a legitimate, spiritual person, but she had her own issues. But she claimed that, there's lots of souls here that came down to help people, humanity, and then get sucked into the drama of their followers, right? And whether that's true or not, I'm painfully aware of that happening. It's what's happened with Jesus. Even Jesus had a spiritual fall because there are people who come down, souls that come down to do God's work, and they forget about God and they start serving the people. And the people just overwhelm them with, what Babaji called the moaning masses. People have so much problems and pain, and they come looking for some savior to dump it on. And can you help? Please help me. Please help me. Please clean me, right? Like people would come to Chargy, and he would say, they would please clean me, they would say to him, right? Like, they felt dirty inside and they wanted to be cleaned. And there's a cleaning process, but you don't look at yourself as being dirty. Like it's the negative thing to do, right? It's the wrong thing to do. Please clean me, right? It's something where, people have to realize that they have a higher nature. They have, not in an egotistical way, in an arrogant way, but they have something, better inside of them that's wanting to emerge. They just have to embrace it, right? And, I know my own personal struggles, and I've seen the personal struggles of other people. And, of course, people just not wanting to change. And the power of the ego not wanting to give up its control over its existence and its desire-based existence. And so that's where humanity is right now. And until that changes, and that's for all of you, and, each person to embrace their higher nature, we're fucked, right? Because when you follow the path of a deviant ego that's taking you away from God's laws and wills and principles and the divine order of things, eventually there are consequences, and the consequences are coming. The consequences are upon us, right? And so, and religion has, done as much or more damage than anything else by claiming that there's some heaven out there. If you just accept you bow to their power and authority. That's all religions, and certainly Christianity. And so, that's the wrong thing to say. Instead of empowering people to connect with their souls and the divinity within them and become the best version of themselves. And until people realize that and are willing to do that and really take responsibility and not put it on somebody else, right? Looking for somebody else to elevate them because, they're just broken and bankrupt and beaten down by life, right? I mean, that's the problem. People have lost they're just dead inside. They've lost their prana, their spiritual energy, their whatever. I get into testosterone, the war against testosterone in this video, and, that's a part of it. And so, without further ado, here's the video. Okay, so I forgot kind of the most important part, but one thing that I, have learned over the years is people can't make your decisions for you. You can pretend that somebody else made your decision. You can blame them for your decision. You can say, well, they told me to do this, or they conned me into doing this. They convinced me. They forced me to do this, right? But that's because you don't want to take responsibility for your own choices, right? And it really fucks you over. It really makes you suffer because you are responsible. You are responsible for your own choices. Nobody can make your decisions for you. Nobody can tell you what's right for you. You can get guidance from people. You can, hear people who are experts in a certain situation when you're, trying to make a decision. You know nothing about the subject matter, but no one can, make those decisions for you, right? Talking about my wife's friend who, the doctor. If if the right decision was for her to abandon her allopathic medicine, and maybe there had been all these times in her life where she saw, there's doctors who see through the bullshit, and they realize that the system is flawed. And, I've met some of those doctors. They're always, people I consider healers. There's people who go beyond their model, or they keep on learning. They're branching out and learning more and more about the human body and how it works. And they're not confined to their own specific model. They do different types of medicines, right? They realize there's different ways of healing. And everybody has a different system. And your body's a system, and you as a person, and how subtle you are, and how, what kind of, some medicines are going to work for you that aren't going to work for, some models of medicine and treatment are going to work for you, and they're not going to work for somebody else, right? And so the information is always there for you to figure out. And it's just that we choose to ignore it because of, stubbornness, and because we're not willing to change and open up, we're not open to, new ways of thinking about things, right? I just got a comment from somebody, and I talked about the Van Allen radiation belt, and the person said, I see if I save the comment here. The person said, the reason we can't get to the moon is because of the firmament. So, yeah, okay, that's what you want to believe, but how can you? It's not a good book. It's not the best book. It's not a perfect book, the Bible. And so the stuff about the Old Testament is there's so many flaws in the Old Testament, and you can't take things, you can, but you'll be wrong for doing so. What the hell is the firmament? The firmament, right? It says the firmament, it must be true. Yeah, okay. But how are you going to expand your consciousness, right? How are you going to understand, just reality when you've been indoctrinated and you refuse to look at your own indoctrination, right? And since we've grown up on lies and been fed lies, we have to retrain ourselves to seek the truth, and then our ego wants to deceive us in these things. But ultimately, we have to make our own decisions. Now, there's a piece I have, Sean Hannity interviewing Stephen A. Smith, and he's excusing Kamala Harris. It's coming up in this video. I've already made the video for the most part. And I have a few more things to add today that are kind of big things, but I've made most of it. And Stephen A. Smith was saying to Sean Hannity, what do you expect Kamala Harris to do when asked when she realized, or if she realized Joe Biden had dementia? She can't dime out her boss, which is like this idea of ratting out your boss, right? Which is a silly thing to say when your boss is holding the nuclear codes and he has Parkinson's, right? Like there's no argument there. But Stephen A. Smith is somebody that people value his opinion on sports, but really what he does is he says things to provoke people. He says clickbaity type of things, hot takes, and most of it's all bullshit. I get into this later on in the video. But I was watching the Lakers game last night. Actually, I got a couple of commercials. I was watching some basketball and some Crest commercials I'm going to show you also from that game. And so I'm watching the game, and the Lakers are getting killed by the Phoenix Suns in the first half. But the Phoenix Suns are shooting a high percentage from three-point range, which doesn't usually continue in the second half. And they were up by 20, but the Lakers cut the lead to 10. And they're trending in the right way going into halftime. And Phoenix has had a history of blowing large leads. So Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins, who are two analysts, say that the Lakers already lost the game. The game's over. The Lakers won by like 15 points or something, right? Because they don't know shit, right? They don't know they don't really know sports. They profess to, but really what they're there is to provoke, debate and provoke drama and create gossip and things like that, right? That's where they make their money. And, back when I used to watch a lot of sports, I watch it, I sort of dabble in it now. But I had friends who were betting, another friend who was a bookie, and my friends would pay, there was these, and this was really before the internet, but there was these people who would sell you they were supposed to be people who are good at betting, right? Same way when people said you had how to get rich, they do these seminars. You go to seminars and they tell you how to get rich, right? And they're getting rich by you paying them to tell you how to get rich, right? That's their brilliant idea. I mean, they're making money off of you, and your idea, and this idea that they can tell you how to get rich, and really they can't because you're a loser. Like you don't have the capabilities. But these guys would sell their 5-star picks, right, for betting, like for the team. You bet on the 49ers, you bet on the Patriots or whatever, right? The Jets. And they would say, this is a 5-star pick, it's a shoo-in. And if you lose, we'll give you a free bonus pick next week. And eventually they're going to be right because it's just the law of odds. And you're like, these guys are really good because the first 3 picks were wrong, but they kept on giving me free bonus picks. And so now I'm going to pay them again for another, and you're losing all your money, right? And you could blame these guys and say, they also took your money before you lost at betting. And you could tell that to your wife and your creditors after you're broke and you can't pay your bills, right? But you're the one who placed the bets. You placed faith in this and you got conned into believing they could provide something for you, which obviously they couldn't, because if they were that good at picking winners, they wouldn't need to sell you their picks, right? And by selling you their picks, you're actually driving the point spread in the opposite direction against what they're doing. So like it would behoove them to tell all their fans to pick one way, and then that would drive the point spread so more favorably in the other direction, and they would pick the other team, right? I mean, just to understand these things. But none of these guys, these experts really know what the fuck they're talking about. And trusting other people to make your decisions for you is, it's against why you're here. Like all your choices are your choices. Every choice you make in life is your responsibility. And you're the only one who pays for your choices, right? Regardless how the people who take advantage of you, well, that's their choice. People who con you, people who tell you the wrong thing or whatever, that's their choice. So they'll suffer as well for making the wrong choice, right? For not following through on their soul's plan and doing the best job they could and doing what God wants them to do and their soul wants them to do. Everyone pays for, your ego just running amok. We all pay for that, right? You're responsible spiritually, but people can show you what they do to figure out what the right choices are. And that's what I kind of do here on this channel and some of what I do here. I have a system for finding out, internally what choice to make. And it works for me. It might not work for you, but, at least if you're thinking about it, like I have to create some sort of system. I have to find a way to cut through all the bullshit and find out how to make my choices, right? Because your choices, your situation, my situation are different. And you have to figure out what works for you. Like each person has to do that. And when you're younger, like I wasn't nearly as good at it when I was younger, but still there's a way to figure out the right choice. There's times where you just can see it, right? When it's time to make the choice, if you're connected to the divinity within you and you're like, I don't know, pure of heart or whatever it is, you can, figure out what to do, right? And you can pull to you what you need. Like if you need something like physically or, emotionally, if you need something to keep on going, like you just need something to help you out, you need a boost, you'll pull it to you. You pull it to you if you're open to it, right? If you're open to the information. When you need help, God will always help you. God will always bring you back to, God will always provide a pathway back to God. God's always there to bring you back home, right? You just have to ask for it. You have to ask for that assistance. You have to be open to it, and you have to be open to it in any form. Anyways, let me get into the video here. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Friday, October 25th. This video will be up, I believe, on Monday. Saturday. It's next video Saturday. Yes, Monday. Whatever it is. So I'm getting an early jump on it here. So these two unlikable guys Well, first of all, I'll be kind of psyched when this election's over. And I don't know when that's going to be. Like, it's not going to probably be the election night. It won't probably be the next day. We'll see what happens, right? Like, we'll see how this thing plays out. There's going to be drama, and it's just going to all be, whatever. It's just a lot of unlikability here. But I want to cover a bunch of things now to show you, they've gotten desperate with Kamala. So Stephen A. Smith came out and said Joe Biden was senile, maybe 6 or 8 months ago. Stephen A. Smith, his coverage of Kyrie Irving and then getting into it personally with him, and just like the whole gossip drama thing that he perpetuates in sports. But the big thing with Kyrie Irving is that he said that he was questioning the vax himself, that he, wasn't all aboard on it with his own belief in the thing. But he was, he was making $8 million. He was the highest paid person at ESPN Disney. And when they made it mandatory, he had no choice to not only get it, but to endorse it, right? Like they made him endorse it. And so he went after Kyrie Irving. And then the things got personal with him and Kyrie's dad, and the way he handled it, just an absolute shill, like just a POS, right? Somebody who pretends to be, talking truth to power, at least in the sports world, but then he entered into talking about politics. But he said Joe Biden was just too old, right? And now this happened.
Kamala to this day say, oh, Joe was really cognitively alert. You know that's a crock. I know that's a crock.
What is she
Everybody
supposed to say,
watching
Sean?
knows it's a crock. Not Donald Trump.
Sean, what is it? Hold on. What is she supposed to say? She's supposed to sit up there and say, you know what, my president, my
The
boss.
truth.
I mean, there was cognitive
how about
decline
the
there.
truth?
No, you're not. No,
you tell the truth on
do
your
that.
show?
You don't dime out your boss.
You don't dime out your boss? Like, this is not a criminal organization. I mean, it is. And that's the problem. But you're saying you don't dime out the president? Right now we have a guy who's in charge of the nuclear codes. It's all BS, which, you guys all know how I feel about it. The president is it's not a real position, which is great. Like, this is him confirming it, that she should lie about his cognitive decline even though he's still president. And she sat back and watched it, right? Like, if she was a person of character, like they like to talk about her being, at any time she would have said, our president is senile. Whatever was going on behind the scenes, whatever structure, power structure, whatever the way they were handling Joe Biden, like he was just, doddering around and, just doing that, that Parkinson's shuffle walk that he does. This guy, I showed you the video. I should go back and show that at some point again. It was kind of great. The guy was talking about how, Joe Biden was showing obvious signs of Parkinson's. The guy described the walk that Joe Biden does, the way he turns his whole body instead of just his head. This was neurological breakdown as well as cognitive breakdown, and why these symptoms happen, and how it's so obvious to see that he has Parkinson's. Like, in early stages, he might have had Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. But either way, you would see it, like as a doctor, he said even just a regular doctor, not a specialist. And he said like a first-year intern should be able to diagnose Joe Biden because how far and bad it has gotten, the Parkinson's. And so Joe Biden was president because we knew Kamala Harris knew he was senile when she laughed at him in the debate. They were all stunned that this guy was beating them, right? He was a front runner and no one knew why. Like the American people, or at least the Democratic voters, 20% liked him, and the rest were kind of undecided, and nobody liked Kamala. And she was laughing at him. And I showed you that clip over and over again. And so she kept her mouth shut. And so all this talk about having character, right? Think of the kind of person who would service a 60-year-old man. Get on her knees and service a 60-year-old man when she's 29. Like, what's going through her mind? And what's her motivation? It ain't you. Like her saying that she's been a service-oriented person there's some thing that came up on YouTube today talking about how she just loves to serve the American people. That's what she's all about, right? And, you know, she's a service to herself, because what was best for America, the Democratic Party wouldn't have pushed Joe Biden on the American people. And I'm really not sure why they did it. I think one reason has to be that he was such a puppet that they could do anything. They owned him so much. Like, he would do anything to be president, and he has no moral compass, and they could just, you know, handle him and manage him anyway, and he would do whatever they told him to do. And, of course, he wouldn't execute it great, so they had to control the situation. But he had no capacity for governance himself. But whatever reason, they couldn't pick another person to beat Trump and to rig it against Trump. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the motivation was. You know, Joe Biden was the last of a certain age of Democratic power. He was the last of the Obama Clinton power group, right? Like, they were two different, you know, Clinton and Obama had different teams of people, but they dominated the, you know, the Clintons and then Obama, and, you know, Joe Biden was a part of that era in the Democratic Party. And so now they're bringing in all these new people, and maybe they didn't want to go with it, whatever it was. They all sucked. But they decided to elect a guy who was going to break down, was already showing cognitive decline, which I'm sure he was doing it when he was vice president, and they all knew about it. And Kamala signed on to be his vice president, and she sat back and watched the guy, you know, dodder his way around the stage. And, you know, he was president. Like, this isn't just your boss, like this clown, right? Let's go back to him saying this.
How
about the truth?
No, you're not. No,
you tell the truth on your show?
You don't dime out your boss. You don't. Listen, I do tell the truth on my show, but guess what? So I said I do. What I said, however, is that I'm not going to dime out my boss if that's my boss. Go ahead.
So you wouldn't do it if your boss, which is ABC. You don't dime out your boss, which says a lot about Stephen A. Smith and ABC and how he went in on. So he doesn't tell the truth on his show because, you know, Kyrie Irving was a hero. And I covered this extensively on my Apocalypse Now channel. Kyrie Irving was a hero with the way he stood up to, you know, the mandates in New York City, and turned out to be right. And, you know, just the way Stephen A. Smith and all these guys treated him. And he made it personal. Like, he got into it with, like, you know, Kyrie Irving. He saw him and came up to him and said, "Are you still keeping that same energy?" You know, almost like they were going to have a physical fight. And Kyrie Irving's dad started to go after Stephen A. Smith, and Stephen A. Smith started to use his position, you know, his position as the number one, like, you know, gossip person on the sports world, you know, first take to demonize Kyrie because of it, right? And he's just a real piece of shit, you know, and so, but he wouldn't dime out his boss, so his boss is ABC Disney. Now, all these companies suck. Fox sucks. I mean, all these media companies suck. But Disney takes suck to an whole other level, right? ESPN is part of the Disney franchise. You don't dime out your boss. If the president is senile, then, you know, has Parkinson's, then you have to let the American people deserve to know. It's kind of an important position. But it isn't, because they clowned it, just like Trump clowned it, right? They turned it into a clown show, just like Trump did, because it's always been that. It's just a fake position, right? It's not a real position of power.
Oh, hang on a second. You know what? I have never watched you hold back. You say what you mean. You mean what you say. That's my point. She is. But she knew he was a cognitive mess, and now she's lying. Oh no, I never noticed it. It's a
because
crock.
Sean,
it's a lie.
Because Sean, what
Just
you're trying
admit
to
it's a lie.
Because what people. But because what, listen, I personally, a year earlier, I was saying there's slippage, there's something that ain't there. He ain't going to make it to the election. Y'all better get with the program, do something about it. I was on the record about Joe Biden, but I'm not a part of the Biden administration. And if I was a part of the Biden administration, I wouldn't have told you that. That's number one. No.
So you would lie about it. So you have no integrity. I mean, this is, you know, not just about some athlete, right? And, like, he would come down on people for lying. Like, he came down. He likes Aaron Rodgers. He calls him that bad man. And when Aaron Rodgers said to everybody he was immunized, and Aaron Rodgers took a homeopathic remedy, and the reason why he said that he did the research and he has a peanut allergy or something, and some of the vaxxers said Aaron Rodgers said a whole story about it, but he didn't want to make a thing about it because he knew it would be a thing. So he said he was immunized, and then it came out that he didn't get the vax, and everyone came down on Aaron Rodgers. And this guy came down on him for lying, but everyone know why. Why is he? He was deceptive. He said he was immunized, but he didn't say he got the vax. He took something else, and he had already had it. He had COVID, and so, the whole thing, right? Like he came down on Aaron Rodgers for that, saying, "Oh, you lied," but everyone knows why he, didn't. He was hiding his position, and you get to do that, right? Your medical decisions are not public knowledge, and they shouldn't be. I mean, if you're injured, that's one thing because it's part of the whatever. But your choices medically, and they hammered him, right? When they went after Aaron Rodgers, all these people, anybody for being deceptive, and Kamala Harris can't tell the truth because she did something wrong, and they all did, and Joe Biden shouldn't be president now. And so, like, if any kind of sense that she's a better person than Trump goes out the window because of the deception, right? So then what's the difference? Like, just slight personalities or, rhetoric or whatever? There's no real difference. Not in character, not in the kind of person she is. And so here.
Number two, she's the candidate now. You got to run against her. Are you going to beat her, Sean? Are you going to beat her? Are you going to beat her?
It's a straight up. It's straight up. The American people.
Are you as confident as you were months ago?
The biggest choice election in a lifetime.
I see some slippage on his part.
Stephen A.
Look at the face. So there's another clip here. So one of my viewers sent me this morning, and Huffington Post had put a bunch of stuff out. Like the Huffington Post is getting desperate. Like they're using the word fascist, right, for Donald Trump because that's all of a sudden the word. And like these things everyone knows what's Trump. Like you can't take him down because America's accepted that. Like, and he's got the villain role in WWE. Villain role. It's just that he's their villain. Like people think he's going to fight for him, fight for their, whatever. And so Huffington Post is throwing all this stuff. I'll show you another thing from yesterday. But they're getting desperate.
Number two, I know you're not talking about somebody being lucid and cogent and enunciating their thoughts with clarity, and you're bragging about Donald Trump. We can't be watching the same stuff if that's what you're doing. You ain't going to do that today.
Now,
what? Lindsey Graham, hold it. Now, Senator Lindsey Graham is about to come on this show.
Let me tell you something.
That man can articulate himself very well. Not Donald Trump now.
I have sat with him for hour after hour after hour, topic after topic after topic, and he is so dialed in.
Really?
Look, it's funny. People try.
So Huffington Post said that they put Hannity in his place here. That's how they frame this interaction here. But Donald Trump is definitely slipping. And it's not just he's slipping, he's still getting older, but he's bitter. Like whatever his first election bid was about and where he is now, like what all this stuff that's happened, and I don't know how much he's aware of it, how much he's a part of it, the trials and all this other bullshit. But Trump is clearly like just, he's angry and self-centered, and I mean he's not as good a person as he was, and he was a piece of shit back then when he first got elected. And so like this is the issue here, because Trump is too old and he shouldn't be running again. Like he just should have went away. But the Democrats need him because they don't have anything else. The Republicans don't have anything else. And it's been this has been the time of Trump, this decade of Trump, right? And at some point it has to end. And when it ends, it's going to be great, just in terms of, I mean, it won't be great time. Like things won't get better. But we can just put this behind us because it's just played out. It's jumped the shark years ago. And I think he's going to win, and there's going to be whatever, 4 more years or whatever it is. Maybe he won't make it the whole 4 years. I don't know. But they're trying to extend this thing, and whatever's going to happen the next 4 years is going to be bad. And when that ends, the Trump era ends, that'll be at least a relief of that thing. But I think people have bigger things to worry about because of the conditions of the world, and certainly the World War III thing that's imminent and all the rest of it, right? But Kamala Harris doesn't have any kind of an argument because she's running on the Joe Biden platform. She's an extension of the failed Joe Biden presidency and the fact that they sat around and watched a senile guy, a guy with Parkinson's with cognitive decline, fake like he was president. And, that's, defrauding the American people. And she's a part of that. So talking about Trump's cognitive decline, you can't do that when she's on the hook for Joe Biden's. And so this is just a silly argument between these two dopes. Sean Hannity obviously likes having Stephen A. Smith on. He likes the argument, and him having him on makes the ratings pop in this other thing. Just bizarre. The New York Post endorses Donald Trump for president. The clear choice for a better future. There's one of the disparaging Kamala eras. And this was what they put on their website today, this photo, right? So the New York Post I look at every day. It's a Rupert Murdoch, it's one of his, Fox News affiliate, whatever. He owns that paper. And, the last time they commented on this was this. Trumpty Humpty. Don, who built a wall and had a great fall, and can all the GOP men put the party back together again. And they started to call him like the former president, and they were all in on Trump, more so than Fox News was. And then they posted this, and they were done with Trump. And just like the same way everyone should be done with Trump. But, the American people, or the Trumpers, weren't. And the Republican Party can't get rid of this guy, and they want to get rid of him too. And not because he's great, because, he's a threat to their power. He owns their party now, and he's not their guy. And, when he's gone, they'll try to go back to their old bullshit. But at this point, he needs to go. But the Post, given the choice between Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, we'll get to Hillary in a moment here, and Trump, they're choosing Trump because that's just the way it goes, right? Like they broke from him, but, there's this limit. There's no real choice here. You have this idea of like the kind of person you identify with, and you're going to pick one of the two people because you feel like you have to. And it's just silly. Like, these are not two people that you would ever hire. What you would hire these people for? Would you hire Kamala Harris or Donald Trump for a job? Would you want to hang out with them? In terms of the majority of people. Like, if you really knew them and if you were around them, you're like, oh, this person's horrible. These are horrible people. And, the people behind them, their team of people are horrible. It's a whole egregore, a whole group consciousness of horribleness and the whole political system. And so you're just voting for evil. Like every time you vote for evil. Because these people have all gone to the dark side, whether it's, the Democrats or Republicans or any of it, right? And so it's just, that's why the case for not voting is strong because of all of it. So this broke yesterday. Former model says Trump groped her during encounter facilitated by Epstein, report said. He put his hands over my breasts, my waist, my butt, former model Stacey Williams said of GOP nominee for president, according to The Guardian. And here's the picture, right? So here she is with, this is her. This is Ghislaine Maxwell, and there's a younger Trump, and of course Jeffrey Epstein. I guess it's Melania. So that's not that's not the girl, the model. I don't know who the model is. But they're trying to tie Trump to Epstein, which of course Trump said Jeffrey Epstein's a great guy, and he likes women a little bit on the younger side, and he meant that they were underage, and he knew about it. So he's a piece of shit, right? And the Trumpers never get that. They never get that he's a piece of shit, that, they just can't go there. Like they talk about the Clintons and Epstein. The fact of the matter is all these guys had ties to Epstein, right? To the Clintons and the Democrats and the Republicans. And, he was a billionaire, and Trump and him were friends. And so they're all scum. Like, that's all it tells you. But the Republicans won't ever believe it. But there are some people they might think are on the fence, and they want to say, all right, maybe if we throw this thing out there, like, why did this girl wait all this time to out Trump as, being this whole thing, right? She could have said it any other time, right? And so here's they're trying to link Trump to Hitler, even though it was Mussolini that was the fascist. And so, this is supposed to be an October surprise, and it's just silly. And the Huffington Post is getting goofy here. They're just throwing as much shit against the wall as they can. Not that Trump isn't, Trump's a scumbag with women and Epstein. Hillary Clinton defends Kamala Harris's chances with a sick 2016 burn. It's a burn. Hillary Clinton's got a burn. Let's check out what her burn is.
You've said before that recently you said that Trump uses blatantly fascist rhetoric. Do you agree with John Kelly, with Vice President Harris, that Donald Trump does meet the definition of a fascist?
I bet she's going to say yes.
Caitlin, I do. And it's not only people like...
how is that word going to resonate with the American people? Like, I mean, the desperation here. Like, you're coming in and they've made this all about Trump again. And the mistake was not running somebody that could inspire, not running a rock star, like not running somebody who could generate their own crowd size and their own enthusiasm. And they just, rolled Kamala Harris out with a lot of fake. They brought out rappers and music artists and, younger audience to try to, to pump her up with some energy so her rallies didn't look small. And they talked about her rallies being bigger than Trump's and making it about his penis size. I mean, all that stuff, like just all of it. Weird stuff, right? When, just fabricating. Like they knew they were going to have an enthusiasm gap with Kamala Harris because no one's voting for her. They're voting against Trump, which is what they did with Biden and kind of a little bit what they did with Hillary, right? Because Hillary wasn't a rock star. Obama was. Obama had enthusiasm. He was a good public speaker. Bill Clinton was for them, right? But Trump, and Bernie Sanders was. And Bernie Sanders he's not a good public speaker, and he's kind of weird and old. But they liked him because he was so liberal. He was, for the liberals, they finally were getting a liberal candidate. Because the Democratic Party is made up of a lot of different coalitions. They can get more votes because they represent various groups, right? They represent various ethnic groups, racial groups, LGBTQ, these various groups that all have some people, some percentage of the population. And then they have conservative, sort of middle-of-the-road Democrats, and then they have the liberals. And there's always a battle between the middle-of-the-road Democrats, Hillary Clinton's a middle-of-the-road Democrat, and so is Obama, and so is Biden. And so Bernie Sanders was an actual liberal. And so they have all this stuff, right, that they try to put together into a coalition. And they're not as enthusiastic because the liberals are the most enthusiastic people. And Trump was a sort of radical right-wing Republican. He wasn't a centrist Republican like Reagan. He was radically right, very conservative. But the conservatives only make up about 40% of the population, 30-something% of the voting demographics. And so they have to figure out a way to get the rest of those votes. And, of course, Trump has pissed all these groups off and people off. And so, it's just a mess because it's all just like, fake shit, right? And, well, let's get back to this here.
Former Chief of Staff, Marine General John Kelly, who is telling us this and warning us. It's people who have really studied what fascism is and what
So there are two there are two bombshells here that they rolled out. October surprises. John Kelly, who they waited, who was Trump's former chief of staff, and he's basically implying Trump's a fascist, and they're rolling with that, right? Thinking that that will affect the outcome. And then this woman who comes forward and ties him to Epstein. You know, you think about it, like just like desperation here. These are not real October surprises. A real October surprise is that your crackhead son dropped his laptop in the bathtub, and he's been using you to using your name and has selling influence with you, access to you, for years as vice president and all these things. He got all these jobs he didn't deserve, and he drops it off at a place and forgets about it, and then they roll it out. It has all this incriminating shit on it, and everybody suppresses it because they're rigging it for Joe Biden, right? Like that's a potential October surprise. This isn't a real one because this one isn't going to affect the outcome because everyone knows Trump's a scumbag. Like Trump is that guy. They've accepted that, and they just won't believe it because they got this Trump derangement syndrome, right?
Fascist leadership looks like. People like Professor Timothy Snyder, people like former Professor Paxton, who just recently came out and said that he had studied fascism during the war.
Okay, so you gave this question, and she has like a lot of stuff to say about it, right? Like this fascist thing, like CNN played along with it. Then the town hall, the word fascist, it was something that they're both. Anderson Cooper asked the question at the town hall, and Kamala Harris said, yes, he is a fascist, right? And then, now she's got a lot to say about it, right? Like, who gives a shit about this word fascist at this point? Like, the country's a cesspit, and this is degraded. And, this is a democracy, and Trump isn't going to, he's going to implode when he gets into the White House because they're going to go after him constantly. And there's just going to be this, constitutional crises that they're going to create. But there's going to be, like, a good time for the World War III to happen for the other side because America's going to be divided. They're not going to rally around Trump because they can't. People, they just won't ever do that.
Particularly the Nazis, Vichy France, and he'd been reluctant to use the term. But he had concluded, as so many people now are, that sadly, here in America, the term fits. And, one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is...
What is it, Caitlin?
Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book.
Okay, that'd be good, because let's plug your book, because everyone should read that book, whatever it is. How I Lost for Fake News. She's like, oh, fuck, she's plugging her book.
President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany.
No way. They were doing that.
So I don't think we can ignore it. Now, it may...
Just don't ignore it. I think you should vote for Kamala Harris. No, actually, you should vote for me. I mean Kamala Harris. Let's go back to 2000. If you guys had voted for me in 2016, this wouldn't ever happened. I don't know why you guys didn't do that. I think it was rigged. I think it was Russia. It wasn't, my fault that I'm like just a disgusting person that nobody likes. Let's find the quote here. That the burn. I want to go find the burn because this is 9 minutes long. Hillary Clinton. Trump meets the definition of a fascist. Hillary Clinton, author. Something lost, something gained. Okay, I know you lost the election. I don't know what you gained. Right? 20 pounds. And so...
to make a case as well as we can before this election about what kind of man this is and
fascist,
and what kind of president he is promising to be.
Yeah.
Fascist president.
Yeah, you just think about, the voters that we had at the town hall last night. Some of them, one was a widow and she's worried about paying her taxes and her bills and what that's going to look like. And so you hear that resonating and breaking through as she's still undecided. And so I just wonder, given your position in 2016, at this point in that race, when you're looking at where we are 12 days out, polling averages in 2016 at this time had you on pace for a bigger win than President Obama had 4 years before.
Yeah, remember that when everyone thought you were going to win and you were happy, you were doing a victory dance, and Trump basically quit in the last debate, like he gave up because he felt like he would never really want to be president anyway. He was just using it to build his own brand. Remember that? And then like the election night happened, it turned out you lost, and then you got whiny and bitter and all these things. Remember that? You were already bitter before, and like you were even now more bitter.
And of course, you know better than anyone how those next 12 days went. What do you think Vice President Harris needs to do, in your view, to avoid a repeat?
Well, first of all, I don't think she has Jim Comey in the wings waiting to kneecap her, so that's good.
Okay, another excuse. Nobody likes you. That's why you lost. Is it Jim Comey? It wasn't the Russians. It's because you're just a despicable person. And just Trump's a despicable person, but he's more likable.
And I'm very grateful for that. But I think she is doing what she needs to do. And
that was the burn that Huffington Post talked about. That was the burn. 2016 burn.
In reporting from today, I think by CNN, a number of the voters who were at your town hall have said she convinced them that she had shown the
oh, come on. She'd failed at that town hall. Everybody's talking about it.
Kind of empathy and concern about...
None of that. It was all fake. It was just badly acted. Why are you asking her? She lost to Trump. Like, you guys should be like, oh my God, you lost to Trump. Like, she should be thrown away and like just get out of here, Trump loser. You lost to Trump. She gave you Donald Trump by sucking, by rigging the primary against Bernie Sanders, and then executing the election the way she did, the campaign the way she did. She lost to Trump. At least that's the official story. Whether they rigged it for Trump, whatever, it doesn't matter. But her whining about how it was rigged against her and all these things, that's not going to win. And Kamala Harris seems a lot like Hillary Clinton. And, you don't ask somebody who lost how to win, right?
Their problems, that she'd come forward with.
Then just it's kind of bullshit. Like she failed. She failed at that town hall. And so the reason she failed is she doesn't have anything inside her that can compel people to believe in her as a leader and a person that could solve all these problems. All she has is running on the Biden record, which sucks, and running against Trump and how Trump sucks, and I'm not Trump. That's all she has is I'm not Trump. She doesn't have her own, like, oh, I'm a person that you would like to vote for. Like, she's the alternative to Trump. And that's the problem with the Democratic Party. They're the alternative to Trump. Yeah, Trump sucks, but why are you better? Well, we're not Trump. No, but why are you better? Well, Trump is Trump and we're not Trump. And so, like, if you don't want to vote for Trump, then we're the alternative. Yeah, but, like, what makes you worthy of being president? Well, I'm not Trump. Did I stutter? So that's their whole thing, right? Okay, so there's been a little bit of development here. I took a break and then I ate breakfast and I saw this great, as sucky as it could be, on Morning Joe, which is like the worst show. But the show before that segues into Morning Joe, and it shows you everything I've been talking about. And then I have this great piece from CNN about, the war on testosterone, which is a big part of everything that's unfolding here.
This election, and we know from Bob Woodward, Donald Trump also has been speaking to Vladimir Putin. Author, columnist, and conservative writer Matt Lewis. Matt, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for getting up way too early with us on this Friday morning and all week long. Morning Joe starts right now.
The first part of this was Elon Musk is talking to Vladimir Putin, and that Trump has done that in the past, right? And to think that you wouldn't talk to somebody, this is the kind of demonization of people. Because our wars in Iraq, we went to the UN and they sent Colin Powell out there, the evil Dick Cheney, who works for a company that makes money off of repairing countries we've destroyed in war, right? Taking government, taxpayer dollars, your money, to rebuild Iraq, after we went into Iraq, after Colin Powell went to the UN because Dick Cheney set him up and said, we have irrefutable evidence. He pressured the CIA and the intelligence community to lie about or to manufacture evidence that wasn't there and say that Saddam Hussein was producing nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction that he didn't have, right? And that whole war killed 1 million people. And they're going to bitch about Russia and Putin like Putin's evil? When these motherfuckers just murdered 1 million Iraqis for profit and stole American taxpayers' wealth to do it? These motherfuckers, and now, Cheney's out there saying he hates Trump, and Trump is, a piece of shit, but, all of it, right? And so, that's the first piece to this.
Georgia, we got 12 days to choose which way our country is going to go from here.
You already know what time it is. That we don't have a moment to lose. We wanted to stop that other guy. I don't call him by his name. I call him Agent Orange.
Wow, that's real clever. What you're going to notice from all these celebrities, they're not talking about how much they love Kamala Harris. They're talking about what a piece of shit Trump is, right? Which is, okay, great. Trump's a piece of shit. What is Kamala? What's the alternative?
She's running to be the 47th president of the United States. Donald Trump is running to be an American tyrant.
I watched him from the Central Park 5 to Project 2025. And what I realize is that in this Donald Trump America, there is no dream that looks like me.
All right, good morning. Those were the high-profile celebrities who appeared last night outside of Atlanta for Kamala Harris, a rally which also included former President Obama.
So unfortunately, I was too close to TV, but you still see it. What the fuck is wrong with Mika's hair, right? What is she doing with that? Gumby Joe has always had that weird hairdo, so maybe she's competing with him, clipping his nuts. We'll get into that in a bit, right? The morning Mika. But who was missing at that rally? Kamala Harris wasn't even there, right? They had all these, celebrities, A-list celebrities, whoever they are. And she has lots of these people campaigning for her. We're going to get to Michael Keane in a moment. All these celebrities carrying water for her, all these people. Where is she, right? Why isn't she there? She's not there because she's not the star of the show. Trump is. It's all about Trump. All they do is talk about Trump because they don't like Kamala. They would be saying the same shit if it was anybody else. Anybody, the Democrats, they say the same thing about Joe Biden. Anybody that was up there running against Trump, they would say pretty much the same thing about that person, and it would be all about Trump. And produce somebody worthy of their own electability, where they could be elected and could run the country or be a good president on their own without saying, oh, well, at least I'm better than Trump. That's just, again, and then pissing off men, which we'll get into in a bit.
Donald Trump, meanwhile, was in 2 swing states out west, disparaging America and praising an autocrat. I think he said America is a garbage can.
So this is what I've never really understood. All these Republicans that used to be conservatives are always talking about, oh, you don't love America, don't love America. There's never in the history of the United States of America, since the Confederacy, of course, been a president or a candidate for president that has trashed America as much as Donald Trump.
See, what happened was the liberal hippies were complaining about the power demographics, and we're going to cover this more as we move forward. The power demographics that existed. Remember, the liberal hippies were protesting about America, and then there'd be counter-protests that were like, love America or leave it. Get out of here if you don't like it. Go live somewhere else. Go to Canada or go back to Africa or go wherever it was, right? That's what the conservatives were saying, that, you'd either love it or leave it. But there are real problems with America. Now, the Republicans and the white people and the conservatives and the Christians are like, wow, America is let's make it great again. It sucks now. That's what that means. Well, is America good now? No. America sucks now for them. It really sucks for everybody, but it sucks for them, and they're pissed about it. They used to say, get out. You don't like it, get out of here, right? But now that's been reversed. And, that's why, like, both sides got to realize they're both full of shit, right? Like, they got to realize, people have to realize that, we're all in this together in a sense. Like, either we're able to live at a cooperative level and find some sort of common ground and have some common goals and aspire to be better, which is the most important thing, and leave the world a better place for our children. Or we could just, go to the lowest common denominator and just hate other groups and blame other groups and, never change ourselves and, just become more and more egotistical and disconnect ourselves from God and the divinity within us and each other. And then compete, and it's like a hostile situation, and that's what we've all bought into, right? And so that's that kind of situation always ends poorly when there's an adversarial, people who are supposed to be working together on a team, right? If we're part of a team, if America's a team or a family, and we should be working together, but we're not, we're at each other's throats. What do you think happens to those teams, right? They self-destruct. Those families self-destruct, right? That's what happens 100% of the time. Okay, here's another Hollywood piece of shit telling you that why you should vote for Kamala Harris and why Trump isn't worthy of your vote. You guys all know how I feel about Trump. He's a piece of shit. So that's not the point here.
Hey, hi, Michael.
Hey, Michael, how are you? You sucked as Batman.
For some of you folks who, guys mostly, I guess, who...
Guys. I'm going to get into the guys thing here in a second, right? They're trying to go for the guys all of a sudden. Guys. Most of you guys. I got a whole thing. CNN did a great thing on guys I'm going to show you next. So this is going to feed into that.
I'm thinking about attending a rally with Musk and Trump.
Trump and Musk. I don't use first names because I'm a guy.
They don't really respect you. They laugh at you behind your back.
Okay, so the Democratic Party, including and especially most of all Kamala Harris, put out a guy who had Parkinson's, who had dementia, in 2020, hid him away from the American people, the voters, and they concocted the whole whatever happened with the COVID stuff they manufactured the shutdown of society, and they put everybody through that bullshit, right? That was unnecessary bullshit. So, and partially because they wanted to hide away Joe Biden because he couldn't articulate full sentences even back then, right? And then for 4 years, the guy has been shitting himself, banging into stuff, falling off of bikes, falling downstairs, falling upstairs. And the guy's clearly got dementia. And then after the American people finally realized, the majority of them, and said, hey, this guy's unfit for president, you guys pressured him out of the race, but still claim that he's well enough to complete his 6 months or whatever he's got left after that, when he withdrew from the campaign. And then you push Kamala Harris on everybody without a primary, and you're saying Trump is laughing at you? Okay, Trump and Elon Musk might be laughing at their people because they lied to their people and they, talk something, they talk in a way to those people that the people want to hear, but not how they literally feel or would express themselves. Sure. I would partially agree with that. I would agree with that. But you're saying Kamala Harris is better after all the bullshit they pulled?
They think you're stupid.
Yeah. They're like lying to people about a guy who's got dementia. You think that they treat the Democratic voters after they rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders twice, going against the democratic process?
They don't want to hang out with you.
Yeah, Kamala Harris does. And you celebrities, you guys want to hang? You want to hang? Let's go hang, Mike.
They have nothing in common with you. They're not your bros.
Exactly. You guys in Hollywood have so much in common with us, and so does Kamala Harris. They're not your bros. They're not your bros. They're not bros of yours. They're not bros.
I'm telling you, when Trump, years ago, I guess, said, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'd still vote for me, basically what he's saying in parentheses is, these people are so stupid, they're so dumb, they'd still vote for me. They have no respect for you, trust me.
And you guys in Hollywood have so much respect for people. And Kamala Harris does. Like, just, sure. Like, this is true, but it's true across the board. Don't pretend that Kamala Harris is different. Bro. You know, bro. You're a real bro there with the American flag in the back. Look at this. He's a real patriot, this guy. With this hat, this khaki hat. Hey, bro. Come on, bro. All right, let me show you the piece on men, because this was actually quality. Let me show you here. Okay, so CNN, this guy, whatever his name is, Samir Kanish, they got rid of Velshi. MSNBC fired Velshi. They had two bald guys on. And Velshi's gone. Or maybe they're firing this guy. I don't know. Anyways, this guy did a real news piece here. It's not truther, but it's truthful. And the whole thing's great. I'm going to show you the whole thing. And, well, let's just get into it here.
Young women today are making strides in economic equality, earning more college degrees than men and serving more often as their family's primary breadwinner. Men, on the other hand, are working less. Many are living without a spouse or a partner. A Pew study found less than a fifth of Americans believe that the progress women have made in society came at the expense of men.
So only 17% are smart. That's what it's telling you, because I'll explain this in a moment.
But 40% of men supporting Trump between the ages of 18 and 49 do believe the progress of women came at their expense. And Trump has been trying to reach out to this demographic, doing podcasts and golfing with the Nelk Boys, joking around with Theo Von, appearing on YouTube with Jake and Logan Paul, as well as with streamers like Aiden Ross, reaching the millions of young men who follow these social media personalities. As the New York Times put it, these repeated collisions of testosterone-fueled orbits are a campaign strategy, not a coincidence.
They're not a coincidence. It's not. He didn't give interviews to these people just coincidentally. He just happened to bump into them. Did an interview. It was actually planned campaign strategy. Crazy as it might sound, the people that they do interviews with and the shows that they go on is part of a strategy. Like, if you can believe that, this is fucking New York Times. You have the balls to say it's campaign strategy and not coincidence? Yeah, of course it is. Every little bullshit thing they do, every fake assassination attempt, every bullshit audience member who pretends they're fainting and the candidate goes through a whole, litany of rehearsed lines that they, show how caring they are. All of it. It's bullshit, right? Just stop it. Like, this is what you get from the New York Times now. It's actually campaign strategy, not coincidence.
Look, that our young men today are struggling in comparison to young women, it's borne out in the data, raising the question of whether it's time for a targeted intervention. Consider that at the Democratic Party website, there's a list under the heading, Who We Serve.
Okay, so let's read this. African Americans, Americans with disabilities, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, Democrats abroad, ethnic Americans, Latinos, faith community, LGBT community, Native Americans, rural Americans, seniors and retirees, small business community, union members and families, veterans and military families, women, young people, and students. So they don't put men, right? They leave men off here. Like, why would you leave? It's pretty much every demographic here, and it's white people. They don't mention white people or men, although the majority. You look at the various people who have been candidates or members of the Democratic Party. Majority of them are white. They have a little bit more people of color, but the presidents. They've had one black guy. The rest of them have been white. The Democratic presidents, and then Kamala Harris. And so they leave it off white people and white men specifically. Men in general, although, as a man, you can come into some of these groups, right? But heterosexuals and white heterosexual men is what they're leaving off. Cisgender men, right?
of 16 different demographic groups. They include African Americans, the faith community, LGBTQ plus community, rural Americans, and women, but not men. Which brings me to today's poll question at smerconish.com. Are policy solutions necessary to address the plight of young men who are underperforming in schools and leading unhealthier lives than young women? Go vote. Joining me now is NYU Business School professor Scott Galloway, host of the podcast Prof G. Scott, of course, has been at the forefront of discussion.
You know, so, and it gets better. This is a good thing. Like, it's a good piece here because, you know, I don't give a shit about any of this stuff. And, you know, it's all a joke to me. The system's collapsing and it's all, you know, it's a bad system and it's imploding. And I'm going to have a lot more to say after we watch this whole thing. But this idea that women are now doing better, they're getting paid more, they're more likely to graduate college, and it's just going to get worse over time. And they've targeted men and white men as a group to discriminate against, as somehow you know, have to pay for, well, let's listen to what they say here, right? But it's clear that they've done this. But when you promote any sort of demographic, when you go into identity politics, and you demonize one demographic and you prop up another, you know, there's just limited amount of good jobs and spots in college and places in society. And it's like the game musical chairs, right? And, you know, someone's going to get screwed, and it's how they've done this thing to us on YouTube and truthers. You know, people in the truth community, they've squeezed us out financially and by community guidelines and things like that, and by shadow banning us. And so you pick winners and losers. And if you promote one group, you're going to, you know, you're going to sabotage and undermine the other group, right? So that's happened with men. It's clearly happened, right? And these guys are finally admitting it on CNN. At least this show is.
Discussions about the plight of young men who feel forgotten. Great to have you back. That Claire Kane Miller piece in the New York Times, I thought really interesting because the men in this category whom she interviewed, she said they're not misogynist. They're more focused on
They're not misogynist for wanting to, you know, get jobs and be in college, and they're having women promoted over them and things like this. They're not misogynist for actually, you know, just wanting to do well themselves.
Economy and what they perceive to be their lack of economic opportunity. Will you speak to that issue?
Great to see you, Michael. Yeah, it's interesting. It would be incorrect to assume that it's men who want to go back to the past and are some way. This isn't thinly veiled misogyny. As a matter of fact, among Gen Z and millennial men, they're very supportive of gender equality.
They are. They're so supportive.
So it's not that they're moving towards the Republican Party. They feel abandoned by the Democratic Party. And that is, if you have a group, the Democratic Party right now, Michael, is facing the same issues as some of the DEI apparatus at universities. And that is when you are purposely and explicitly advocating for 76% of the population, are you advocating for them or are you discriminating against the 24%?
Exactly. Kaboom. Which is exactly what has to happen. When you pick one group to, you know, favor, if you favor one child, or if you have 4 children, you favor 3 of them, those 3 are going to do better than the one that you don't favor, right? That one's going to grow up with self-esteem issues and all these other things and be used to being treated and, you know, being looked at as less than, right? It's just how it is. Like, if you start handpicking the groups that you want to promote because you feel like there's systemic prejudice and, you know, white men have ruled with an iron fist and let's, you know, undermine their success, this is what happens, right? You know, in India, there's these various higher level castes, and one of those castes, especially in southern India, is the Brahmin caste. And that's the caste in which a lot of teachers and a lot of educators, a lot of spiritual gurus come from. And there was a young guy who hung out with my kids. He was a couple years older than my kids. Nice kid. And he and I talked. He was in his 20s. And he was telling me about how he had to change his last name. So in India, they identify you and what caste you are based on your name. And for him to get a job as a Brahmin, because they were doing some sort of, you know, this kind of promoting these lower castes, which is, a good thing because the caste system was prejudicial. But for him to, get this kind of to be at this disadvantage, he would have to get like perfect grades to get into a school, and wherever he was going for, like he was some kind of doctorate program or something like that. So he had to pretend not to be a Brahmin, right? Because if he was considered a Brahmin, he would never be able to make the kind of grades or get into whatever the thing was, because it was, like everyone else had to get like half as good grades as he did because their caste was being promoted, right? When you have any kind of these, these incentivized programs based in race, or in this case, caste. And so it's one thing to make things fair, but usually when you try to reverse things, like years of prejudice, years of abuse, and I'm not promoting the caste system or racism or anything like this, right, obviously. But when you try to reverse it, you always end up screwing the other demographic. And you say, well, they've had it so good for so long. Yeah, but these kids haven't, right? These kids who have grown up now, especially these white cisgender heterosexual men, they didn't, they could have been a black person in a past life, right? Well, you don't know what they were before, just because of their ancestors, right? So if you're saying that white men were, unfairly, had this white privilege, okay, sure. But you're going to take that away now, deprivilegize them, and make them pay in some way, like they did in that city of Chaz, right? Remember, they wouldn't let white people in the park and things like this. You're just perpetuating the same kind of an attitude. If you want to transcend it, then you make it equal for everybody, right? There's no favoritism. But as long as you have favoritism, you fuck everybody, because it just goes back and forth, right? And this is going to, come back to haunt you, because Trump's going to win more than likely. And we'll get back to that in a bit here.
And that's how I think a lot of young men feel. Quite frankly, they just don't feel seen by the Democratic Party. To the issue of economics, you reference college, where pretty soon with these trends, we're going to have 2-to-1 female to male college grads. Women in urban areas under the age of 30 are now making more money than men. More single women own homes than men. And by the way,
okay, so this idea that women weren't being paid as much, the gender gap, the financial gender gap. And so this has been reversed, right? Because years of talking about it this way. And there's an issue here with motherhood. I'm going to talk about this at the end of this. I'm going to show you this whole thing. But this also undermines motherhood as well.
Those are wonderful things, and most men don't resent that. But what they see is a huge apparatus and resources and rhetoric and very inspiring speeches about the importance of advocating for every single group but young men.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be a popular position to carry that flag. And I want to show you something.
It's not even about advocating for them. They're blatantly against testosterone and its anti-men agenda. And this has been going on in the school system for years, because women, for the most part, are teachers. And, not respecting the differences between boys and girls, and celebrating the behaviors of girls. And, this goes on for, 60, 70 years in the school system, where boys were prejudiced against, and nobody really understood it, because it was mostly women teachers, and they didn't understand how to deal with boys, especially as the family broke down. It got worse when women lost more and more understanding and felt more and more resentful towards men, which I'll get into more at the end of this thing.
I'll read it aloud in case you don't have return. There was a headline in the New York Times: Trump courts the Maniverse. There it is. Big story, well done story. And I took a look, Scott, at some of the comments, and this one caught my eye because it was typical. Put that up on the screen, Catherine. So this person said, that headline says it all. A bunch of bros with fake jobs preaching to a bunch of bros with no jobs, being courted by a tiny man who has never held a job that he was qualified for. And I could read you 10
America
like that, more than 10 like that. And I think that's part of the reason why, there's this mindset out there like, screw these guys, they don't need assistance. Many of them are young white men. They've been privileged to begin with. What would you say to those who aren't showing the sympathy for the demographic we're talking about?
It's simple. Should a 19-year-old who has fewer opportunities educationally, fewer opportunities professionally, what happened to wood, metal, and auto shop? You have an education system that's highly biased against them. Boys are twice as likely on a behavior-adjusted basis to be suspended as girls. Think about what we want in education. We want someone who's organized, who's a pleaser, who sits down, who's not disruptive. You basically describe a girl. So the question is, do we believe empathy is a zero-sum game? And that is, gay marriage didn't hurt heteronormative marriage. Civil rights didn't hurt white people. And should a 19-year-old with fewer economic and romantic opportunities pay the price for the privilege that you and me enjoyed, Michael? That's the key question.
It's a key question, Michael. Okay, so let me show you this. I want to do a voiceover about what we just saw. And, something taking it to a different level. And so North Korea troops are entering the Ukraine war. Here's what it means. What the F to do with them, Russian soldiers heard condemning North Koreans. And so if South Korea decides to get involved in the Ukraine war, it has powerful options. And so this is where North Korean troops are entering into the Ukraine. And so think about that. It's not just Russians. Now it's not just giving aid like America and these European countries. North Korea troops are killing Ukrainian people. And so Russia and North Korea are now allies in a war. Of course, there's the Israeli, I don't want to call that a war, that abusive thing that's going on there. And, we're just taking large steps closer and closer to World War III. So let me go back to the voiceover here. We live in a time of, fuck you, what are you going to do about it? And if you don't have leverage and you don't have power anymore, right? And I said this for years, because if you think about the man, when people said the man, right? I'm getting hassled by the man, right? Like this kind of attitude amongst the 60s and, urban people and, hippies and things like that, right? The man as this, misogynistic bully, corporate white guys who had all this power, religious, Christian, authority, the Christian coalition, and those people having the power and the authority in America to make decisions and, to profit themselves and, all these things. There's that, the Murdaugh murders in South Carolina, that guy, the privilege this guy had, right? This guy was a lawyer and he, owned this town, and there was all this abuse that they were perpetrating, this kind of attitude. And, I said this before, when you step on somebody's throat, you better not take the boot off, because you do, they're going to, step on your throat, right? This has happened over historically. But the issues that, the things that people don't learn is that when you've had this behavior done to you, you should be against the behavior. If you've been bullied, then you should be against bullying. If you've been abused, you should be against abuse, because you know what it feels like, right? And it's a real problem with the human species. Like, you should learn, we should learn collectively, when something is done to us we don't like, then we don't perpetrate that on somebody else. And that's what's happening here, right? Where, these various demographics in the liberal movement and the Democratic Party has grabbed power with Trump as their catalyst, and they're saying fuck you to all these young white kids, right? These white males. But then, it just produces anger, and there's always a rebound whenever you use force. And so, these groups have power temporarily, but there is, a majority here of demographic, majority of white people. And of course, there's the liberal people and all that, but it's going to turn around, and that's, Trump is their revenge on these liberals, right?
Is it time for them to pay back the wrongs of the past? Or do we, in fact, decide that we cannot have a society that flourishes, women cannot flourish, when men are floundering? So the notion that somehow this group who is committing suicide, can you imagine any group, Michael, that was killing themselves at 4 times the rate of the control group and it not being a discussion? How many times did we hear about breaking the glass ceiling and that who's going to tell President Trump that that job he's seeking might be a black job? Those are inspiring, righteous words. Did anybody on stage at the Democratic convention mention the very real issues young men are facing? And this is the opportunity. This is a battle. It was supposed to be a battle over a new form of kind of liberating women. We thought that was going to be the defining issue in this campaign, bodily autonomy. It's turning into masculinity and different visions of masculinity, and there's a huge opportunity here.
Yeah, because Kamala Harris is going to lose. If she loses this election, it's because men don't like her, and various groups, some of his, black men not voting for her, but certainly these other, this young men coming out and voting for Trump because he's the only one who seems to care about their desperate situation, right? And so, like, this is going to, if Trump gets elected, it's that reason. Like, this is a loss because you left men off your fucking list, right? Because you wanted to demonize somebody, and this was, all right, let's demonize Trump. And Trump is appealing to these young white men, or these young men in general, let's demonize them as well. And then you're like, hey, we lost, fuck, and then you're stuck with Trump, which is what, the people in power want. But not these people who buy into this bullshit, right? These bullshit rhetoric.
Because while Trump has embraced the manosphere, Walz, to the Democrats' credit, is portraying a form of masculinity more around protection and service. And
that's not doing that. That's just bullshit. He's very effeminate. He's not at all. There's no masculinity in that guy, right? The testosterone is like, there's a war on testosterone. I'll cover that at the end.
That is a wonderful definition of masculinity. And that is the opportunity for Democrats. First, they have to acknowledge the problem. Young men have fallen faster than any demographic in America over the last 40 years, and to embrace a more modern form of masculinity and to lean into it.
Catherine, will you put back on the screen?
Modern form of masculinity. That's like half the problem. Like, this guy's saying some good stuff here. Not truther stuff, but, mainstream stuff. And they're getting into real statistics here, which these people won't, the liberal media won't talk about.
The DNC portion of the website that I referenced earlier that shows the 16 demographic groups, because I want to ask Scott, should young men be on the list with Latinos, ethnic Americans, Native Americans, rural Americans, seniors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Do we need, it's my poll question today, do we need a targeted approach, a policy approach by both parties to address the situation that you've given a platform?
I personally think, quite frankly, I think that list is one thing. I think it's stupid. I think when you say we're advocating for basically everybody but one group, you aren't advocating for those special interest groups. You're discriminating against one. It should be about freedom.
That's a good point, solid point, because that's what's happened here, right? They list pretty much every other group, and they put women and don't put men, right? So they're saying, we're going to, there's, I was going to say this about Trump, right? This is something I think my brother used to say, somebody, a long time ago, I think it was my brother. And or maybe it was one of my, I think it was my old girlfriend's brother used to say this. Somebody. We screw the other guy and pass the savings on to you. We take advantage of the other guy and we pass the savings on to you, right? And so that's what they're saying here. Like, we're going to have to screw somebody, so it's going to be, men and white men in general and their privilege, and we're going to prop you up. We're going to take their privilege away and we're going to give it to you, right? And that's, what Michael Keaton was saying about they don't respect you. Yeah, they don't respect the Democrats lying to you about that shit because they have there's this idea now with the Black Lives Matter and all that rhetoric that came out that now after all these years of this idea of reparations, there's going to be no reparations. They're never going to they don't care about you or any other group, right? They're just using this to divide people. They're using this to do identity politics and split everybody off and create hatred. And as the system collapses, people will tear each other apart because they'll hate these other groups, right? When people in the comments, people say to each other, they hate the vitriol that's on the internet. And so they're only doing that because the system's going to collapse and they don't want the anger that's going to be generated at them. And then, of course, some will be at politics and the media. There's some of that, but they're not at the people really making the decisions, right? And so, this is why they're doing that. But to have a list and leave off men, right? Put women but not men. Well, you're basically saying we're screwing men over and passing the savings on to you.
It should be about opportunity for the middle class. It should be about lifting up our young people. I don't think you want, specific programs.
And I can say the same thing about Trump. Trump's saying, I'll screw the other guy, the people that, aren't MAGA, and pass the savings on to you. They don't pass the savings on to anybody, right? They they screw somebody, they keep that money, right? They're not screwing other people for you, right? Kamala Harris didn't get on her knees and service a 60-year-old man so she could pass their, she could get positions so she could make your life better, right? Like, what do you think she was thinking about when she was doing that? How, like, her life was going to be better. This guy was going to give her jobs and gave her a Mercedes and these things, right?
That target young men, I think, are just too politically charged. But for example, the Democrats don't take credit where they should. 70% of the jobs created by the Infrastructure Act are going to be for men who don't necessarily have college degrees, but they don't want to talk about it. So I think we need to move away from, quite frankly, the politics of identity to the politics of America. The same is true at universities. I don't think the University of California in 1997 did away with race-based affirmative action and went to income-based or adversity-based affirmative action. I think that's a role for the Democratic Party. Instead of calling out specific observable traits and say we're...
See, affirmative action, that was the term I was looking for with the cast, is always bad. And, they're addressing a real problem because people in power will, whatever the demographics that they believe in, if they're Christian people, they want other Christian people around them, right? They're going to promote other Christian people. They're going to help other Christian people. If they're white, they're going to help other white people. If they're black, they're going to help other black people. It's a demographic you buy into. And so if there's certain people that are in power and they have all the resources and money, they're going to help other people like them. That's always been a problem, right? And one of the great things about America, Master Chargy, the third master of the Sage-Mark system, said, your system rewards for merit. He came to America from India, and he was well-traveled. He stopped in Europe before coming to America. And, all these countries have the haves and the have-nots. And in America, the system's rigged, but nowhere near as bad as it's rigged in other countries. Where you have people coming here as immigrants and within a generation becoming multimillionaires or billionaires. The opportunities, and of course it's not as good now as it used to be, but it rewarded for merit. Like if you could perform on some high level, whatever it was, they would hire you. Like companies would hire you. They might even be prejudiced against you and might not make you feel welcome or included, but you get paid. You'll be able to, rise up out of income poverty, generational poverty, and get become a millionaire, even billionaires in some places, in some cases, right?
We're promoting this group and this group and this group, but not this one. Move to, okay, young people are 24% less wealthy than they were 40 years ago versus plus 70-year-olds are 72% wealthier. Young families are struggling. 3 million men between the age of 25 and 34 are no longer even seeking employment. 1 out of 3 young men doesn't have a girlfriend. 2 out of 3 young women under the age of 30 do have a girlfriend because they're dating older for more economically and emotionally viable men. So we need programs that lift up all young people. But we need to move away from this identity politics because it's not about promoting or advocating. It's turned into reverse discrimination.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. Like there's a reason why this is being done. Just like before, it's not random. This is part of a plan, right?
when you do this, and I mean this with the highest praise, I have to go back and watch the tape because you just hit me with so much good data that I want to write it all down. Put up on the screen the social media reaction because I might want to lean on Scott for the response before he leaves us. Here it is. Sounds like more coddling of fragile male egos and a form of affirmative action. See, this is typical, Scott. This is just like.
So this is Tim Toad, 1961. So this guy, he's hearing what we're hearing, which we know this to be true, right? Sounds like more coddling of fragile male egos in a form of affirmative action.
Like all those comments in the New York Times. Quote, maybe if boys and young men spent more time studying and less time bullying others, gaming or trying to get laid, they'd be better educated. And you
Kaboom, Tim Toad.
Would say what?
Replace the term young men with blacks or gays or women and see the reaction you would get from a statement like that.
Kaboom. That's a great, that's a great answer. You couldn't say that. Like if you said that, your comment would be flagged. And so that's, YouTube rigs the system against certain demographics, right? I showed you the prejudice against anti-vaxxers. And of course, people in the truth community is far worse than what they're talking about with just men here. White men, young white men. I mean, that's, it's much worse for us. And the way the system's rigged against you for, just calling out bullshit in the system, right? That's all you're doing. And then being proven right and then no one ever's acknowledging it. And them sort of, some like, oh yeah, you're right about that. Or admitting you're right without admitting you were right. Like admitting, kind of like, oh, we were wrong or we were off about this. But not saying, yeah, we shouldn't have used this faulty premise to disadvantage people, right? And prejudice against them. And I say this all the time. If you're against a behavior, you're against a behavior in all forms. If you're against prejudice, then be against prejudice in all forms. Not say, well, we can be prejudiced against that group because they suck. Because they were bullies or they were abusive. So let's get rid of that group. You can't say you're against a behavior only when it's against you and the people that you identify with, right?
I mean, again, we're not going to have a productive society if young men aren't engaging with school, they're not engaging with work, and they're not engaging with women. The whole shooting match is that America is a platform such that people can get together and form loving, deep, and meaningful relationships. That is why you have an economy, to create a middle class such that young people can build nice lives. And one of the keys to building...
But it doesn't exist anymore, right? Like that economy doesn't exist because it's too debt heavy. I mean, this lifestyle doesn't exist anymore. And that's why the American dream is gone. And so they want you to blame somebody. They want these angry young white men who, they incels, it's called incels. They identify with that Joker movie. Remember that whole thing? I covered that before. And then every one of these other groups to blame some of these other groups because they have to blame somebody when they realize how fucked the economy is and how they don't have a future.
A productive life is the ability to find a partner. And the reality is we don't talk about kind of the core issue here, and it's mating. And that is women mate socioeconomically horizontally and up, men horizontal and down. And when the pool of horizontal and up keeps shrinking, young people aren't connecting. How many times have you heard people say, I know wonderful women, and they can't find a man? Sure, they can find a man. They just can't find a man they want. So you know who wants more economically and emotionally viable men? Women. Ask any mother who has 2 girls and 1 boy. It's time to lift up young people. Empathy is not a zero-sum game.
So this is not only a war on testosterone, but it's also a war on motherhood. Because without testosterone, and women don't understand this, there is no motherhood. Like there's a balance here. And women have testosterone as well, right? Testosterone can be very difficult and can create aggression and a lot of what's called toxic masculinity. The toxin that they're talking about is testosterone. When they talk about toxic masculinity, they're talking about testosterone. And if you see testosterone in the animal kingdom. You know, they had these. There's a great documentary about these bull elephants, and they had a lot of young, immature bull elephants that, you know, when they get into mating season, testosterone literally pours out of holes like in the side of their faces and runs down their face. Testosterone's like running down their face, right? And they were killing rhinoceroses and stomping on cars and wreaking havoc. And what they did was they brought in more mature males that were, you know, bigger and more, you know, seasoned. And they put these younger bull males in their place, and everything was balanced, right? But taking the man out of the environment, and these, you know, young bulls were growing up without, a male role model, and testosterone just, you know, took over, right? And you see it on the farm with roosters, and you see it with, and the roosters are just basically R-ing these chickens all the time and fighting with each other. And, you know, you see it with bulls. You know, bulls can be dangerous, you know, cows, you know, the bulls and the cows. And pretty much any animal that has testosterone, you know, you can see that the animal is somewhat, I mean, you see this with the chimpanzee documentary I just watched, right? Testosterone is, you know, a very powerful force, but it's necessary for the creation of life, right? The male part of the creative process. And also, testosterone in women is, you know, the energy, this life force is imperative. It's important for your immune system. Like I said, the creative process and so many things. And sometimes aggression or, you know, anger or these types of emotions get you to move and change and do things. Also exploring, and, you know, you find people with depressed testosterone, they live shitty lives, right? But testosterone can also cause war and, you know, all kinds of negative things, abuse. So there is a problem, right? But it isn't, you know, a bad or ungodly thing. It isn't devil juice, right? It isn't, you know, some kind of evil component to the male system. Testosterone has a place, right? There's a reason for it. And it has to be balanced out. But when you have a war in testosterone, then, you know, it destroys your society, because the energy that you need to create and to fix things and to fight back and to, you know, in this case, we're entering a situation where there's World War III, and we live in a world where there is aggression and there is a problem with unnecessary violence. I mean, you see this, you know, my wife and I saw these two deer, male deer, and they both were dead. And their antlers got locked up, and one of their necks got broken, and the deer died. And then the other deer couldn't get free from the first deer, and he died, right? And they were, you know, fighting each other for the right to, I mean, the testosterone was to ensure a strong species, right? And this is, you know, you're saying that's evil and that's toxic masculinity, and you should go against that, undermine it, right? It exists for a reason. Again, it's hard to see, but it's there. There's, you know, there's this type of competitiveness and violence, and, you know, there's also that shakes out in terms of like the competitiveness in humans as well. Like you see this with birds and men doing the male birds doing extensive dances and things to attract a female. And so when the women are saying, yeah, we're not attracted to men our age, because, yeah, you've destroyed their self-esteem and their testosterone and their, you know, their maleness, and now they don't have a future and all these things, and they've been told they're pieces of shit and they're the villains, right? And so, of course, you don't want anything to do with them, right? You beat them down, or the older women have beaten them down with this attitude, you know, these bitter women, the women who are, you know, in that movie, Jerry Maguire, that are, you know, in the living room and having a meeting, these divorcees bitching about men, right? And they, you know, they hate men and they're all these things, but they crave the love of a man, right? There's, if you've ever seen Kyle Dunnigan, he's got kind of a funny show called Pussies, which is, you know, there's an acronym. And these two men are very liberal, and they're so, like, weak, and, you know, they're just bonus holes, right? The whole thing that I've talked about before, right? And then you have these women who no longer are attracted to men because they don't have any testosterone and they don't have anything to offer because they're become weak and pathetic, and, They can't navigate a world that's against them, right? And so now that we're heading towards war, who do you think is going to fight the war, right? The one thing that men are better at, we know, is, physical, athletic, and fighting wars. And then you have these, women now all the time, superhero women and women who are in action movies kicking men's asses, but they're not physically strong enough to do that, right? I mean, they're not. You can join the military and you can be a great soldier as a woman, but you're never going to be. You're going to have physical limitations. I mean, most women are going to be weaker than the majority of men, right? And so now that we're on the verge of World War III, and this happens to all these types of societies, where these empires, the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, all these other empires, the Vikings, the various groups that dominated for some period of time, right? You had a group that dominated. And that group is, you see this with immigrant populations as well. They're just hungrier and they're just more, they have more fight in them. And the victors get passive and weak and entitled, which is what happened to America. And so you have these people coming from all over the globe to America looking for opportunity, and they're willing to fight for it. They're willing to go to, either work for it, or they're willing to fight in the military and the military-industrial complex. But America has lost its taste for war, which is a good thing. But, now America is going to collapse because that's what happens, right? There's no fight left. The toxic masculinity attitude, America's just a bunch of bonus holes waiting to get its ass kicked, right? Which is going to happen. The end of the American empire. But, don't whine about it when you've been a part of it, right? When you've contributed to it. And everyone has. Every demographic has. On short-sightedness and pettiness and not seeing the big picture. And again, it would be one thing if we evolved to become more spiritual and to have a guidance from within and became mature and had some, wisdom, but we just become weak. And so there's always been a war on motherhood because a part of this is women have been told their value is in the working world. When, the mother is the most important job or role that's in any society. And when you have a good mother, you need strong men, right? Mothers need strong men, and so they go hand in hand. But when they said to women, men are keeping you down because these great jobs, most of these jobs suck, right? Most jobs suck. Being a mother is much more satisfying, and it's the natural position, right? It's something that's, backed by nature. You see, motherhood in every other mammal species, every mammal has some sort of sense of a motherhood, and sometimes the father plays a role, sometimes he doesn't, right? But the mother is important for that species' success, right? Having good mothers is important for these mammals, and certainly for human beings. And the number one job of a mother is to teach kids about love, which is, also a relationship with God and nature and these things. So when they started telling women, hey, being a mom sucks and it's, it's a worthless position, but you can go get a job and you can get one of these shitty jobs, and this job's way better than being a mom, and moms suck, and you'll be way better as a person if you get a job. And so they started competing with men, and that led to the whole, the clipping the nuts of men, right? The war on testosterone. And now women are like, hey, these men suck. I'll go date some older guy or something, right? These young men are lost and they don't have any testosterone and they've been beaten down. And this is, and now they're going to vote for Trump. And then there's all this stuff that's going to happen with the collapse and World War III and all these things that are going to unfold. So this is the age of fuck you, right? And having leverage and, forcing your will on somebody else and, just when you have power, you just fuck everybody, right? Just fuck you. What are you going to do about it? Like, that's the attitude. And you see it all across the internet. And people would rather, from their hatred, would rather take down whatever demographics they don't like and don't disagree with, whatever demographics they feel like they're at war with, even if it means that their lifestyle, their life collapses with it, right? There's a level of hatred where you're like, I don't care what happens to me as long as that motherfucker suffers, right? Like, and that's where we are right now. And when you're in that situation, things are going to happen that everyone's going to regret later. The people who survive it, or the future lives where you're born into a situation where the age of fuck you destroys your opportunity to live a healthy life on an abundant planet. Okay, the title of this video is That's Bulls, Bulls, 3 stars. Bullshit, right? Anderson Cooper and Charlemagne the God debate CNN's coverage of Kamala Harris's. And this is, well, let's just watch this.
I think that her saying that she thinks that she believes Donald Trump is a fascist got a lot of headlines because it was the first time she said it. She's been going along for days saying Mark Milley said he's a fascist. This person said this. You raised the question of authenticity in your interview with her, and that was an authentic moment where she says, "Yeah, I do think he's a fascist," and I think that's why.
How is that an authentic moment? What are you talking about? This was a strategy. They rolled it out 2 weeks before the end of the election. They had someone in Trump's inner circle come out and say he was a fascist, and she was implying it. And then you asked her, because it was set up, because it's part of your talking points. CNN's going with that. Hillary Clinton said it. Look, this is talking about inauthentic. How much Photoshop has been done to this picture of Hillary Clinton, right? And so she does not look like that. And, all of the above. But to call that an authentic moment, it was completely contrived. There's no authenticity in it. It had to be rolled out because this was when your Hail Mary passes, the desperation, right at the end when Kamala Harris appears to be losing, right?
It had a reaction. Donald Trump, he, for whatever you think about him, if you like him, if you hate him, he is certainly who he is. He's shown us who he is every single.
Yeah, I've talked about that. He's authentic. He's a liar, but that's his lying is being authentic. He isn't who you think he is, because that's him being authentic is bullshitting you and selling you, right? But Kamala Harris doesn't have that. Like, you don't know what kind of person she is. Donald Trump is relaxed and comfortable, and he's totally himself. And he's been able to carve out. This is why the other politicians and the media hate him. And he sucks, and he's a piece of shit. That's also why. But he can be a piece of shit, and he's accepted. Like, he's found a niche where he doesn't have to lie and be handled. And I mean, he is still handled. But these guys, these guys have such a narrow bandwidth of what they can say and can't say. Like, if you talk to any of these other people, they would say things behind closed doors that would shock you about who they are and what they believe in, opposed to what they present when they're in front of the camera. Donald Trump would shock you maybe mildly. But, I mean, you already know he's banged a porn star. I mean, like, he's cheated on his wives. He's hung out with these horrible people. The whole Jeffrey Epstein thing we'll come back to here as well as we go through this. They're going with these sort of October surprises, right? But, Donald Trump is who he is, right? And they hate that he can be himself and they can't. Like, none of these people can be themselves.
Single day.
Yeah, which is a fascist. And it's crazy because you still don't
He's a fascist. He's not a fascist.
Have news networks having that conversation. Yeah. Like when somebody says, when somebody questions Kamala Harris's blackness or is he a DEI hire, y'all will have roundtable discussions about that, asking that question. How come you're not having roundtable discussions asking, is Donald Trump a fascist? Actually, not.
Are you seriously saying that? Are you saying that they're covering Kamala Harris worse? You don't watch the news or understand it, right? They totally cover Donald Trump worse, right? He's not a fascist. He's a piece of shit. Fascists believe in fascism. People want to put labels on all these various systems, like being a Nazi or being a fascist or being a Marxist or, being a communist or being a capitalist or being, it's really just being a egotistical piece of shit that wants to take advantage of other people, enslave them, and bend them to your will, right? That's what it is. You want to, profit off of other people's suffering and use other people as your, you want slaves, basically, right? It's somebody who's just a piece of shit, selfish, unfair, rigging the system, wanting more than their fair share, not wanting to share with other people, not wanting to to do for other people, expecting other people to do for them, expecting other people to serve them, but not serving other people. I mean, it's just all these different character qualities and flaws. And then you label him a fascist or a communist, but it's just being a power-hungry piece of shit that mistreats other people and runs a system that hurts everybody, including the planet. So labeling them fascist, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are the same kind of person, as is all these other people on the news media. They're all, in it for themselves, right? They're not really service-oriented. They're not helping you. They're not trying to make the world a better place. They're not trying to self-improve. They're not confronting their own piece of shitness. They're not confronting their own flaws. They're celebrating their flaws, and they expect you to pay for their flaws, right? And so, it's just silly stuff. It's, labels to convince the people that there's some kind of, one person's worse than the other, one party's worse than the other, when it's just a bunch of pieces of shit out there taking advantage of everybody else, right? And everybody else doing that, on a smaller level. There's very few good people out there, right? And it's getting less and less. Because the more selfishness there is, the more it forces you to be selfish. It more forces you to be like, all right, I'm not going to get sucked into this whole thing, right? And so at the very least, you have to cut yourself off from the negative spiral and the selfishness and the just all of it that's going on.
Not even asking it, stating it. I mean, when you look at the things that he's talking about doing, jailing journalists, jailing his political opponents, turning the military on American citizens. The guy said he wanted to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. How come that is not the topic of discussion on networks like CNN?
Okay, how come they never discussed how all these mail-in ballots, when they were questioning the legitimacy of the election when they thought Donald Trump was going to rig it. And there was a whole documentary about it called Kill Chain on HBO that all these mainstream politicians, including Nancy Klobuchar and some of these other prominent Democrats, were all talking about the possibility of election being stolen and how America's run rigged elections in other countries and how all these things have happened. And, he's just so stupid. He's saying that there's a bias against Kamala Harris. This guy, he's a total clown. You really believe that? I mean, are you stupid? Or are you just, are you so myopic in your point of view? Or are you just bullshitting? Because the questioning the legitimacy of that election was real. It's just Donald Trump sucked at it. He got baited into it and he failed at it, right? And all these other powerful entities, they made a deal with the neocons and the Republicans and Fox News, and they all took a big shit on Donald Trump and stabbed him in the back, right? And so we don't know if it's rigged or not, but the whole system's rigged. I mean, you're not questioning whether Kamala Harris is a legitimate candidate because they knew Joe Biden was senile 2 years ago. This guy knew it back when Joe Biden went on his show and completely said racist things, remember? He said, you're not a real black person if you vote for Donald Trump. That's what Biden said. And this guy called him on it. And so he knew he was senile back then. And these guys, covered that up for years, CNN and the rest of them.
And every day.
But do you think that, you were raising this with Kamala Harris about her own authenticity, about her own willingness to just, say things that aren't crafted. Do you think she needs to do more of that? Trump's going to go. Trump's going to go. Apparently, Trump's going on is going to tape a thing with Joe Rogan. Do you think she should do that?
I think that she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. And I think that Americans need to keep looking at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, because I don't know why we're even thinking.
Okay, so you think that her calling him a fascist is going to have any effect on the election? It's silly, right? We'll come back to this guy, Charlemagne the God, in a bit. Okay, so YouTube recommended this to me.
Some folks will be like, well, Donald Trump sent me a check during the pandemic. No.
So first of all, where does Obama get that accent? Because he grew up in Hawaii, right? Now, this is an Hawaiian accent. It's not a California accent. I don't know what it is. It's partly Southern, partly urban. But he didn't grow up where the people talk like this. His dad, who was the black person in the relationship, biracial relationship, was African. Barack Obama. And he also, and his mom was white from Hawaii, so she wasn't Southern. So, and he lived with his grandparents, his his mom's parents in Hawaii, and then eventually he went to not Korea, Indonesia, where his father there was Sir Sotoro. You know, they call him Barry Sotoro, was what people used to call him, because his mom took his stepdad's name. And so people in Indonesia don't speak like this, right? He was a global person, which is kind of interesting. Like Kamala Harris has a lot of interesting demographics in her biological makeup. And Obama's had an interesting life, right? But this accent that he has isn't legitimate because he didn't grow up with it, right? Like, it's not, he never lived in a place, like he didn't grow up in Chicago, right?
Y'all know, because I've heard this.
Y'all, they say y'all in Hawaii? Y'all?
I know y'all, some of you heard that.
I know y'all, some of you heard that, right? Some of you. Like, that's not his legitimate accent. But anyways, he's saying Trump gave you bailout money for COVID.
Hey, let me make sure y'all understand this. Joe Biden sent you a check during the pandemic, just like I gave people relief during the Great Recession. The thing is, we didn't put our name on it because it wasn't about feeding our egos. It wasn't about advancing our politics. It was about helping people. That's the difference. Don't be giving them credit for that.
Okay, so the reason that we're going to get into this more, I want to show you this this clip about Kamala Harris and the economy, but he's admitting they all gave out bailout money, and that bailout money is why your grocery prices are so high. And Trump fucked you by giving you money or giving people money. Maybe you got some, maybe you didn't, right? Joe Biden fucked you. Like, a lot of people got money for COVID, and you didn't. And a lot of that bailout money went to wealthy people, and, you know, it went to them and their people, and it came back around, and, you know, they received money kickbacks from the people who got the money from you, from the government, right? From the people's pocketbook, right? And so, you know, let me show you that other commercial here. Okay, so from Obama's own personal history here, Barack Hussein Obama, this is his presidential library. The second was born August 4th, 1961 in Honolulu, Hawaii, to parents Barack H. Obama Sr. and Stanley Ann Durham. His mother's name was Stanley. Like, I've never heard a woman being named Stanley before. His parents divorced when he was 2 years old, and he was raised by his mother, Ann, and his maternal grandparents, Stanley and Madeline Dunham. You know, his grandmother and grandfather, especially his grandmother, seemed to have strong ties to the CIA. Of course, we know that there's this huge intelligence community hub in Hawaii. You know, if you saw the Edward Snowden movie, and there was one of these old-timey reporter truthers did a piece on this. I heard an interview. I'm not sure where. Might have been when Alex Jones used to have quality guests. But it seemed like he was, you know, born into a CIA family. And again, you know, that would make sense, right? Because he obviously has some power. And so his sister Maya was born in 1970. Obama moved with his family to Indonesia in 1967. And so the time he was 6, he lived in Indonesia with his stepfather and his mom. He returned to Hawaii to live with his grandparents in 1971. So he spent 4 years in Indonesia and attended a Pranhuiti school for which he was educated to 1979. So he grew up entirely in Hawaii. And you know how Hawaiian people speak. You know, they have a whole lingo there, there's the Hawaiian people, and there's the people who, you know, the white people, American people, the people who aren't Hawaiian that live in Hawaii, and they have that sort of surfer-like lingo, California-esque, but they have an accent, right? Hawaiians have an accent, and they don't talk like Obama. So, you know, he went to Columbia University. There was a guy who talks like Obama talks. And there was an African-American guy, and Obama plagiarized some of his speech. I don't want to get into the whole thing, but this guy, Obama copied this guy's. He has this Southern Baptist, black minister way of speaking. This sort of preaching like a preacher, and it's not organic or natural, right? Like he does it well, like that's his whole. He's created this character, but it's not authentic to who he is, right? I mean, it's sort of appropriating a culture, and it's fake. It's not real. Like it doesn't match when he has an interview. Like there's a guy who I played basketball with, a real white guy from Poland. He was Polish ancestry, really blonde, right? And he was into the whole new age boy bands. Like he did some modeling, and so he was part of my YMCA and intramural basketball team. And he lived in Bridgeport, which is one of the worst cities in Connecticut. A lot of crime, a lot of gang kind of stuff. But he also, he worked and he wanted to be known from Fairfield County, which is one of the richest counties in the whole country. The Gold Coast, all these people who are rich people from New York live there, right? You should see where Fairfield County is on the map. And when he was trying to impress people about his business acumen, because he wanted to be a rich businessman, he would say it was from Fairfield County. But when he played basketball, he would get this sort of inner city accent, and he would say he was from Bridgeport. And me and my friends used to make fun of him, mercilessly, because of the way he would switch into these two personas, right? And he was inauthentic, right? And then he did this whole boy band modeling thing. And so, whatever there was this new wave of British musicians, the Flock of Seagulls. And so, yeah, he was that kind of guy. And, we all made fun of him because of it, because it wasn't, you're not being who you are. Barack Obama, when he talks to you, has a certain accent, a certain way of speaking, because he grew up in Hawaii and Indonesia, and he had, these types of parents. His dad wasn't a part of the picture. This is similar to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris grew up with an Indian mom. And then there was other people in the neighborhood that influenced her from the African-American community. But Barack Obama grew up with white people, like these white Hawaiian people, who may or may not have worked in the CIA and were educated and wealthy. And his grandmother worked in a bank, and the bank was somehow affiliated with, CIA money. CIA has these banks that they use when they want to do one of their covert operations off books. And this guy was claiming his grandmother worked in these banks. His mother was a part of that. I think his mom died young, and there was a whole thing with that, right? But anyways, the bottom line, he's just fake, right? He's inauthentic. Okay, before you get to the ad, because there's a Jeffrey Epstein tie-in with Vince McMahon I want to show you. And so let's see this, because now this woman has come public, right?
CNN has a new interview with a former Sports Illustrated swimsuit model who alleges Donald Trump groped her in the 1990s.
No way. It's just an October surprise.
CNN's Sunlen Serfati spoke with Stacey Williams. Sunlen, what did she tell you about her encounter with Trump?
Well, Wolf, this is the first time that she's talking extensively about
It's
this.
first time, 2 weeks before the election. She's had 30 years. This happened 30 years ago. But all of a sudden, here she comes right now, right before the election. It's crazy, the timing and all, right? At the same time, his former chief of staff calls him a fucking fascist, and he comes out, and Kamala Harris gets up there, and all CNN is covering it, right? And at the same time, Trump is being accused of being a fascist. Now he has ties, again, reminding everybody of his ways of abusing women and having ties to Jeffrey Epstein. It's crazy.
Stacey Williams claims that in 1993, she was out on a walk with Jeffrey Epstein, who she was dating briefly at the time. Now,
she was dating fucking Jeffrey Epstein? So this was her one thing that she remembers from that whole time period. Jeffrey Epstein, who was with these 15-year-old girls, and she was 25, and, all of it. She's going for a walk with Jeffrey Epstein, and he goes, let's stop by and see Donald Trump.
We're walking down Fifth Avenue, she says, and Epstein suggested that they drop in and see Donald Trump in Trump Tower.
No way. It's crazy. You're such a good reporter.
What happened quickly next, she says, made her struggle with shame and embarrassment for the next 30 years.
30 years. And she just decided, he was president for 4 years, and then he was accused of all kinds of things for another 4 years. So he's 8 years of Trump being out there. And all of a sudden she wants to break her silence 2 weeks before the election. It's crazy timing.
The second he was in front of me, he pulled me into him, and his hands were just on me and didn't come off.
Former Sports Illustrated
What?
model Stacey Williams says that Donald Trump groped her more than 30 years ago in Trump Tower.
Like, this is an abused person right here, like a human trafficked person, right?
With the later convicted sex
There they
offender.
are together. They want to put these pictures together as much as possible. Now, Trump, to all you Trumpers, he loved Jeffrey Epstein, and he knew Jeffrey Epstein was into younger women. Trump is weird sexually. He's talked about wanting to date his daughter and looking at his daughter sexually, and he has a lot of history, of, the porn star, all of it. Like, so you can't deny Trump being a scumbag. We know that. But is he any more of a scumbag than a young woman who dates a 60-year-old man to get ahead in business, right? And whatever else she's done, right? Like exploiting people and locking people up for their kids being truant to promote herself politically. See, they're all pieces of shit, right? And we've accepted this piece of shit being a piece of shit, and he's not changing his way he is.
Under Jeffrey Epstein watching and smiling in the room as it happened.
Then the hands started moving, and they were on the side of my breasts, on my hips, back down to my butt, back up, sort of. Then they were just on me the whole time.
This tiny little hands. How did you feel?
And I.
Oh, it's weird. Look at what's that happening. Why would you put? What is going on there with the makeup?
Sorry. I froze.
She just froze. Okay. So you would be a lot more believable if it wasn't happening 2 weeks. Like, if you're going to tell your story for your benefit, right? Now, I could see if you wanted revenge, you want to fuck this guy over, but like if you were with Jeffrey Epstein, this can't be the only story you have of that period of time. There was no red flags before it. This interaction with Trump was the worst thing that happened to you when you were dating Jeffrey Epstein. Find it hard to believe, right? And it's, but they're linking Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, which is important because people have strong feelings about Jeffrey Epstein. So let's go to that commercial. Let me show you the commercial where they're pushing that as well.
Listen up. This election is about your wallet. Candidate A is a billionaire looking out for billionaires, taxing the streets to fund the elites.
Taxing the streets to fund the elites. And so there was two commercials I saw. One I'll show you from Trump. And they're clearly targeting black people because I'm watching a basketball game. So there must be, a high percentage because they're really going after black men. More than anything else, it's black men, right? And, they know about Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of these people who are on the fence know about Jeffrey Epstein. They showed Elon Musk. And then they show Vince McMahon, which I've talked about, right? That Trump is a Vince McMahon creation because all the above, all the things that we've seen. I talked about Trump's MMA thing, right? But like just the cadence and the way they're going about this.
Candidate B knows the struggle, offering real support, tax credits for working and middle class families, $25,000 for your first home, $6,000 for families with newborn, nearly doubling the child tax credit. One's trying to empty your pockets, the other wants you to get ahead.
Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
And so let's go back to what Obama said, right? And I've showed you the debt clock so many times. And so when there was the pandemic, before the pandemic, there was the economic collapse of 2008, the crisis that Obama kind of semi inherited, but it was really just, inevitably going to happen. And it was going to happen because Trump, again, when Trump deregularized everything in terms of the banksters at Wall Street, Israel and Wall Street and the banksters are Trump's handlers. Like, they're the guys who tell Trump what to do. Like when Trump was in business, he had to answer to these guys who could lend him cheap money so he could do his failed business adventures and things. So they're the people that own Trump, right? And so Trump deregulated all the things that, the derivatives market and things like that caused the 2008 financial collapse. And Obama gave bailouts in 2008 Then Trump gave bailouts for COVID in 2019, 2020, and then Joe Obama gave bailouts. Joe Biden gave bailouts in 2021 and 2020. And it was like $12 trillion that they added to the national debt, right? And when they did that, they had to print more currency, which devalues the currency. When you just print more money, because we only have $4 trillion, and this year it's $5 trillion of income tax revenue, tax revenue from corporations and people, which is a lot of money, $5 trillion. But our budget is way more than that, right? And so that's why we have a national debt clock, and we're going $2 to $3 trillion in debt every year. And all these presidents added to that debt. And when the debt gets added to, when they print more money, it means your money is worth less. So that's why there's inflation, because we're just printing money, because we're the world reserve currency. And then we create inflation because all these other currencies are pegged to the dollar. And then there's global inflation because of what we're doing. And people who have American dollar, like China has trillions of dollars, just bought trillions of dollars, like they've invested in the dollar, and their stock has been devalued. Like they're buying dollars like it's a stock, and that's what it is. Currency of a country is really stock in that country. It's like stocks, they have these bonds and things, government bonds and things, and you're basically buying, investment in that country by using that currency. And so that's why your groceries cost so much fucking money. And so these bailouts. And so when Kamala Harris promises you all these things, or promises some people these things that she's going to do for them, or, they all pay off the rich. I mean, they all have their people that, when there's these bailouts, a lot of that money goes to really wealthy people. When there's these cash giveaways, you think there's, people that wealthy corporations and people don't get the majority of that money. Of course they do, right? And the people who, Trump and Obama and Biden and Biden and all these people will get the same. They'll get kickbacks, right? So they're just looting. When they're giving these bailouts, it's just looting the American wealth, and so that's why inflation is so high. And it's silly, like these people who come out here and just lie to you. Like Michael Keaton saying that Trump laughing at you. Well, the Democrats are laughing at you too, because they're all stealing your fucking money. The money that went to the Ukraine, that didn't all make it into the military and support the Ukrainian people. A lot of that was just them stealing your money, right? And if you did an accounting of it, you'd find out where that money actually went. If you guys remember, I said I didn't know who was going to win the 2020 election, but whoever did was going to be in charge of the looting of what was left of American wealth. And you can say that about 2024. Whatever's left of American wealth is going to be looted by Trump now, if they put Trump in, or by Biden's team if they put Kamala Harris in, right? Like this is about looting what's left of America. Okay, so let's go to this other commercial, because that's very telling as well.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery. For prisoners. For prisoners, every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Hell no, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to that. Kamala supports transgender sex changes in jail with our money.
Kamala even supports letting biological men compete against our girls in their sports. Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
So you can see that this is aimed at black men. Again, this guy, Charlemagne the God, I'm sure his audiences, majority of them are black men, right? His major audience. And it's the same kind of thing that Kamala did in that earlier ad. So this ad for Trump, he has the exact same ad that's clearly focused on white conservatives. And then he has this ad that's focused on black men. And they're pushing this out in areas, swing state areas, or just areas where they hope to improve that vote, right? Or the male vote, in this case, the black male vote, right? The problem that I have here with Charlemagne the God, it's a problem I have with truthers who won't call Donald Trump on his bullshit and won't even question whether the assassination attempts that are clearly fake are fake, right? And so this isn't like me saying I'm better than them or these things. It's nothing like that because I don't give a shit about it. It's just none of this really matters. Like what I do here might help some of you guys. Maybe it has, it lightens the load, the jokes, some of the things, the spiritual stuff. I don't know. Like that's up to you the way you receive it. Like I don't know what value this has to people, but some of you guys say you benefit from it, and I'm not looking for people to tell me, how they benefit because it's great when you do, but that's not what I'm doing here. And so, like, none of these things really are all that important to me. I don't take it all that seriously. But Charlemagne the God is going on CNN and saying, you guys are rigging things so that Trump has an advantage, and you're calling Kamala Harris on her BS, but you never call Trump on it. And that's just silly, right? CNN and MSNBC are clearly against Trump, even though they help Trump in their way, like they give him left-right cover. But they are much more critical, at least on the surface, of Trump. And and a lot of them really hate the guy, right? Which is evident. And so that's just stupid. But for him to come out, and he did the same thing with Joe Biden. And so the difference in this election might be black men. And this guy has, he's like the Joe Rogan of the black community. But calling bullshit on Kamala and Joe Biden is, it's enough to push enough votes away in maybe one of these swing states like Georgia or in like Milwaukee or like in Wisconsin or something like this. And it's enough to push enough votes away from her that she would lose, right? And so for him to go out there and whine to CNN that they're, prejudiced against Kamala Harris and they're giving Trump, a pass, which is silly. But then to say things that Trump can use against Kamala Harris in a targeted demographic that she's already losing and doing poorly at because they're rolling out Barack Obama. I guess she's, I don't think I'm going to cover it today, but she had Beyonce. And I think I'll wait till next time. This video's getting long. But apparently Beyonce went with her, and they're doing everything in their power to bring people in who just don't want to vote for her, right? Who they don't feel the same way about her as they did about Obama and even Biden. Like if she loses votes in the black community to Biden, if Biden outperforms her in these communities, and it seems like the powers that be just want Trump to be their fall guy. I mean, that's the only explanation I have for what's happening right now. We'll see how the election pans out. But these people like Charlemagne the God and these truthers who just don't want to be like me, right? Not specifically me, what they call black pilled. I'm not black pilled. People say that, but I'm not. I'm just realistic about what you see. The system, there's no reason to save the system because it's a bad system. Why would God want to save this system when it's just making everything worse, right? Making people worse. It's bringing out our lower nature. It's an ego-based system. It should just be destroyed. Never mind, whether it can be saved or not, which it can't, right? But for these people to come out and criticize both sides and talk about what a piece of shit Trump is, but then not go the full length of it and say there's no real difference because these people are all horrible people. And they're not even going to be powerful because the presidency's a joke. You're electing a horrible person for a job that is basically a puppet job, right? And then you're like hoping, you're wishing upon a star. You're wishing upon a star that this is going to, change things, and it's not. Like somehow it's going to turn things around. It can't be turned around. And you know it. Like you know it. You just won't think it or say it, and you just won't go there, right? And if you did go there, if all these people did go there, whether it's Joe Rogan, whether it's Tucker Carlson, whether it's all the other truthers, whether it's people like Charlemagne the God, it doesn't matter whether you're right, all the QBs, just admit it. Like there's no solution. It's so obvious. This can't be fixed. It can't be saved. And then it just changes everything. Like it's just a joke. You can watch this as an entertainment. You can watch it as a show. But it has no real, it has no value. It has no outcome that's going to change. There's nothing that's going to come of this, right? There's nothing that, none of these things are going to say they're going to do. And even if they do those things, it's not going to change anything. And so, then it just becomes less serious. And then you can focus on yourselves instead of waiting for somebody to save you. You can focus on making yourself into a better person and preparing for what's next. because, you know, the system isn't going to be there forever, right? It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, it might not be for 50 years, but at some point it's going to collapse, and it's probably going to be sooner than later. And then when it does collapse, we're completely unprepared for that. Some people are a little bit more prepared than others, but most people aren't prepared at all. And you can start being prepared now. And you can connect to God internally, which, even if the system doesn't collapse, is an advantage and something that you connect with your soul and find out what your true purpose is here, instead of living an ego-driven existence, right? Okay, there's a few more things to get to here. Okay, so I tape sporting events and I fast forward through much of it and all of the commercials. Occasionally, you know, I should start watching commercials because almost every time I do, I get like more content and more entertainment out of it. So this was a commercial. There's 2 Crest commercials. So this is Crest commercial called Reality Checkup, so much brighter.
Cabin crew cross-check.
Yellow. Didn't pass the tissue test? Dr. Garcia? Buckle up.
Dr. Garcia, I don't think she's a real dentist. I think they're pushing for a demographic here, but who knows?
Whoa!
She always has a dentist chair wherever she goes. They have a series of these ads. I'm going to show you 2 of them.
Reality checkup! There's toothpaste white, and then there's Crest 3D White Strips white. Oh, one sec.
Crest 3D White Strips safely work below the enamel surface.
They work below the enamel surface? What are you talking about, right? So one of my viewers, I think, I'm not sure how I saw this. It's definitely a viewer of mine. I think she posted a video on Facebook about how her teeth are like rotten because she used these bleach things. Maybe she did some like modeling work or something. You know, they have these things where you can bleach your teeth. And it wears away the enamel, but they sell it anyway. Like they sell shit that wears away your enamel. And she has no enamel on her teeth. She must be a little bit older than me. You know, 60s, 7 or something like that, right? But she has no enamel on her teeth, right? And her teeth are rotting because of that. And so why in the world would you put this, I mean, just to make your teeth look fakely white, right?
Crest 3D White Strips safely work below the enamel surface to whiten like a $400 professional treatment.
So, I mean, God knows what they're doing. The kind of chemicals you're putting in your body. I mean, just so you can have this.
Prepare for a non-stop smile.
You can have a fake smile. You know, yellow teeth aren't great, but Jesus Christ.
The #1 teeth whitening brand in America.
So this is, these bleach strips they put on, right? But you don't want anything going beneath your enamel. Your enamel is what's keeping your teeth from, your enamel is everything. You guys remember, I made a video, some of you guys watched the video from, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago. But I talked about how, I have 2 metal fillings left that I'll finally get all the metal out, but I had probably like 10 fillings, and, I had a dentist who put fillings in I didn't need just so we could, charge my parents or insurance companies or whatever. Just a scumbag dentist. I was later, some dentist that my sister worked for hinted at this to me. And then later on I watched this video about the smoking teeth and about how these metal fillings were outgassing, right? And so I started to have some issues with my teeth, and they were doing these deep cleaning beneath my gums where plaque was building up, and I was trying everything in my power to stop it from happening, and it kept on happening again and again, and I had to go see the dentist every 4 months, which sucked, and they're always trying to x-ray me, and it was a whole thing. And so eventually my wife found this hypoxatrate toothpaste, which is supposed to help build back teeth, which I'm experiencing benefits from, and I got the really powerful Sonicare toothbrush, and I had a really good dental appointment. Again, I'm not recommending anything. I'm just telling you, do your own research, right? But I've been aware of this stuff. And, what happened was I got these cavities, and I was doing I found this first toothpaste was really good against plaque. It was some, again, fluoride-free toothpaste I found that was supposedly specifically designed to get rid of plaque. And so I was working really hard to stop my teeth from having problems. And I ended up getting 2 cavities and 2 potential cavities. And the dentist said, "Are you eating lemons?" And I was, one of my viewers had suggested I take lemon juice and olive oil and cayenne pepper as a way to detoxify the liver. They sent me a video about it, right? And I tried it, and I think it was helping me, but apparently lemon juice or any of these types of acid, fruits, citric fruits, particularly lemons and limes, they soften your enamel for about a half hour. And if you brush your teeth, you can brush your enamel off, and then, you're open to getting these cavities. So that was a whole fucking thing I had to go through, right? And I've rectified the situation, but, now they have these strips that are going beneath your enamel. Like, that's just bad. Like, that's not real dentistry or real, something that's, it's just for some superficial fake smile.
Scared of a little blood? Dr. Garcia?
No. Crest reality checkup.
Boom, it's a reality checkup. The fact that they use reality in this commercial.
Bleeding gums are serious, Jamie.
I must be brushing too hard.
No, it's actually a sign of bacterial infection, one that could spread to other parts of the body. Check this out.
Unlike other toothpastes, Crest Gum Detoxifies antibacterial fluoride works below the gum line.
Antibacterial fluoride. What the fuck is antibacterial fluoride?
Antibacterial fluoride works below the gum line to help heal gums and stop bleeding.
So I had that situation where they had to, where I was getting this stuff in here and they'd had to do this deep clean, and then the gums wouldn't be able to grow back over it. And there's ways that you could there's just methods to get your gums to stop from receding, right? And so I had all that stuff going on, and I had to go outside traditional dentistry to find things that would help me, and eventually I did, right? And I certainly I'm not going to put antibacterial fluoride in my mouth, right?
Crest saves the day, huh? No reason to fear.
The #1 toothpaste.
Crest saves the day. It's the #1 toothpaste brand in America. Go Crest. Detoxify with this antibacterial fluoride. So this is an ad for Grey Goose vodka. They play some music here. I'm going to mute it because the teeny. And so look at all these people who are drinking vodka. Look at this girl spinning around. Look at her spin. She's just loving life. All these models. And if you are drunk on vodka, this is not what drunk people look like. These happy, productive people who are, positive, and they're drinking a depressant. Alcohol is a depressant, right? This girl, look at her spin around, how happy everybody is. You ever seen a bar where people are like this? People doing whatever this thing is, right? And there's the Grey Goose. Look at this girl. Look at her dancing around, doing her thing there. This guy doing the martini. Look at that guy doing this dance. Look at how happy and productive and coherent and clear these people are. This is not what drunk people look like. That's not what happens when you drink martinis, right? You're drinking a depressant. You get sloppy. You get you do stupid shit, and you're no longer graceful if you were graceful before. You know what drunk people are like, right? It just, like I said, I got to watch more commercials because they're great. Okay, so this video is pushing 3 hours, so I have to wrap it up. I was going to show you more of Kamala Harris's this thing she did, and I don't know if I'm going to go back to it. But here's a clip. It's 2 minutes and 22 seconds long, which is kind of interesting. But she's asked about her faith.
Vice President Kamala Harris, I want to ask you about something I read. I read that one of the first phone calls you made after President Biden announced that he was dropping out was to your pastor. And
that's crazy. I heard that. And I know it's secretive. I know you didn't want everyone to know that. I know you don't want everyone to know that you're religious and that you're actually someone who believes in God, because that, would only help you in the election. So I know that, this is something you don't want to talk about because it'll only help connect you with people who believe in God.
And I'm wondering, if it wasn't a confessional, if you could say what that conversation was like.
Well, my pastor, Reverend Dr. Amos C. Brown.
They all have their pastors, right? They all have a pastor. Right? This is, remember there was this controversial Obama's pastor said some semi-racist, semi-hostile things, and he had to get a new pastor, right? They all have their pastors. They all have these people, that connect them to Christianity, and they don't, ever talk about it. They're not Christian people, like good Christians, and the religion itself. I mean, if they were, really good leaders, they'd be spiritual. People who connect to God, and religion blocks your connection to God. Religion's good for, the beginning. It's like something that's good in your early life. Swami Vivekananda, famous, like spiritual giant, said religion's good, when you're a young person, when you're, up to about 5, 6, 7 years old. It teaches you about God, but a religion is good to be born into, but horrible to die in. Like, you should be born into a religion and then become a spiritual person and have a direct connection to God. But she's far away from that because this is all fake, right?
Third Baptist Church.
She's a Baptist, right? Like, she should have grown up as a Hindu. I don't know if her mom is a Hindu or her mom's Brahmin. All of her relatives, all the people in her, area and her caste would be, would be Hindu and devout Hindus. And so I don't know if her mom actually was that. And so, like, why would she be a Baptist, right? Because her dad wasn't in her life and he was Jamaican. And so, like, and she was in California. She was in the South, certainly. But there's less, I don't know how many Baptist churches there are in California. But she's, this is the religion she's picked because of its, how it will help her in terms of demographics.
It was an extraordinary day that Sunday when
it was so extraordinary. Like, I thought Joe Biden was going to win the election. He was so sharp. I was on the phone with him. I'm like, God, you're brilliant, and boy, you don't have dementia. The next thing you know, I'm going to run for president. Like, I didn't know this was going to happen. Like, when I first was asked to be vice president, I didn't go, holy shit, this motherfucker's going to crap out, and I'm going to be president. Right? Like, I didn't think those thoughts when I was offered the vice president's position.
The president called me, and I instinctively understood the gravity of the moment.
I did. It's I was unburdened by what has been. This moment was unburdened by this piece of shit guy with Parkinson's, and I was waiting for this moment when I would be, thrust into the conversation for presidency. I know I couldn't win an election, so I needed to, backdoor it into there, and hopefully the people hated Trump enough so that I can somehow eke this thing out.
The seriousness of the moment. I didn't predict or know exactly how that day would play out, and obviously now it's been 3 months since I've been at the top.
But I've been thinking about it for like the last 3 years, every day for every. I didn't know what that moment was going to be like, but I've been thinking about it for a while.
For the ticket, actually 3 months as of yesterday. But I just called him. I needed that spiritual kind of connection. I needed that advice. I needed a prayer. And
you need someone to pray for you. I need a prayer. I need a prayer because my prayers have been answered. Remember how happy she was? Her first speech? She was giddy and glowing, like she was just in heaven. That first moment when she, her first speech. Let me see if I can find that. I'll just show you that. But she was so happy. I'll finish this up and we'll see if I can find that first speech. I'm sure I can.
And there's a part of the scripture that talks about Esther and a time such as this, and that's what we talked about. And it was very comforting for me.
She talks about Esther, like Esther from the Bible, like estrogen.
And
do you pray every day?
I do pray every day.
I do pray. I do fucking pray every day. I pray to Satan to give me.
I do pray every day. Sometimes
every day
twice a day.
Twice a day, because Satan is, sometimes he's busy.
I grew up. So we grew up a little neighborhood church in Oakland, 23rd Avenue Church of God, and.
So why are you going there when your mom is Hindu? Like, why are you going to a Baptist church in Oakland? Like, why would you be doing that? Her mom had to work. She's a single mom. So her mom was going to school, was a student, and then she worked full-time, and she went to daycare. And she used to say the daycare was an African-American woman, and that's the woman who took her to church. And so your mom had 2 days with you, Saturday and Sunday. And, Brahmins and Indians in general are so family oriented. It's like a meshment in the family. It's like too much family. But family is everything to them. And I don't know what about her mom was a little bit liberal, a little bit different. She did come to America. And yet she was wearing traditional Indian clothes and brought her daughter back to see her grandparents in India. Like every year, Kamala would go back to Chennai. And I assume during the summer, it's hot as shit then, but that would be when she could go. But her mom would bring her back to see her family in India, right? And so she would give up one of those 2 days so you could go to church. Like, that makes no sense at all, right? Like, does she hate you and not want to be around you? Like, does she, banging sailors on the weekend? And so she sent you to Baptist church? I mean, what was going on?
I was raised to believe in a loving God, to believe that your faith is a verb, I know.
You
live your faith. And that,
like, you really suck talking about it. Like, again, who cares what you were raised to believe? It matters that you end up coming to it on your own, right? Like, she's trying to say these things to make her into like a normal person, right? But you have to choose your own faith. You have to choose your own relationship with God. Like, whatever you grew up in, your religion, these things, yeah, that's what they've told you about. But at some point you have to choose to have your own personal relationship with God. And that's usually something where you have to leave your religion and your indoctrination behind you. Again, she's far away from that, but she can't articulate anything because it's all fake, right?
the way that one should do that is that your work and your life's work should be to think about how you can serve in a way that is uplifting other people.
Exactly. Like when you got on your knees and serviced that 60-year-old man and you had his 60-year-old boop in your mouth and all the ways that you you had to, some gross old guy, and you were doing this for political, so that you could get better jobs, and he gave you a Mercedes-Benz and all those things. That was how you could uplift other people. That was how you were living your faith, right?
That is about caring for other people. And
she's just so caring.
That guides a lot of how I think about my work and what is important.
Okay, that's like completely fake, right? Let me see if I can find that first rally she had. Okay, so this is, I believe, in Michigan, and they're playing, I think, Beyonce here. And look at how she's just really happy, right? This was her first rally, her first time out, her first speech, and she's just... She's fucking glowing. There is a certain overwhelm. This happened to Fetterman, right? Fetterman was sworn in as senator, and he had like a full-out panic attack and depression and became suicidal and had to be checked into a mental institution. And as fucked up as Fetterman is, that is a actual kind of a more realistic reaction or more human reaction. Like if you were elected president, there'd be sort of a freak out, right? When you first become a parent and you're looking at your baby and there's, all the positive emotions and all the good things, there's also a moment of freak out, right? Oh my God, I'm now responsible for this kid and these kids, right? Every kid that you have, there's a little bit of a freak out, right? Like, how are you going to support them? All these things, right? There's all this angst, and it's good to have confidence and embrace the, positivity of things. But there should be some, oh my God, I'm running for president. Kamala Harris didn't earn anything. She earned it in a knee pads kind of way. But she was nominated as vice president when she sucked as a presidential candidate. She'd only been senator for a couple of years. She doesn't really have, most of the things she did was just fake bullshit to bolster her resume, right? And so she's mentally incompetent, not very likable, and she's just been nominated. She's running for president. And, you know, she's saying it came as a shock. Does she look like somebody who's shocked or somebody who's been waiting for this moment for years when she was down on her knees, you know, servicing that dude that she was like, you know, this is the moment she was waiting for. She wasn't doing this for other people or caring about other people. This is for her. The same way Trump is for Trump, right? Again, where did this crowds come from? Kamala didn't have, and she was like known as one of the worst, most unpopular vice presidents. She didn't have a fan base. She didn't have people, like she didn't even get any votes when she ran for president in 2016. Like she didn't have anybody. She hadn't built up any kind of, you know, when she became vice president, she kind of disappeared. So where's this all this enthusiasm coming from, right? Look how happy she is, right? And it's complete bullshit. Like they just, whatever they did, whether this is canned, you know, they got people to do this, they paid them or whatever, like Trump did when he came down the escalator and he had paid actors there cheering him on. Like this is fake as fuck, right? Oh, it's Wisconsin. Look at how happy she is.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. It is good to be back. Thank you all very much. Can we please hear it for Leah and her extraordinary story and leadership?
Woo! She's just giddy, right? She's just really in heaven. And, you know, it came at the expense of stabbing Joe Biden in the back and waiting for him, you know, the day that his senility became, you know, public and it was put on there by the mainstream media. And she, you know, she was celebrating this moment. She planned it. It was, you know, there were people telling her she needed to be ready for this. Back in 6 months earlier, they did a poll and 70% of Americans said Joe Biden was mentally incompetent. But she knew years before that. She knew when she was vice president. She knew when she was running for president, the guy was gone mentally. And she just bided her fucking time and waited for this time. And she didn't call her reverend and say, oh, please pray for me. She drank fucking champagne and, you know, whatever the fuck she does to celebrate. You know, when Joe Biden was like when they forced him out and they put her in, right? And she couldn't wait for it. So come on. Come on, bro. Okay, I want to wrap this one up here. My computer screen is getting more and more pixelated. I have to bring it into Apple, and what's the whole thing, right? So I don't know. You know, there might be a time where I'm not going to be able to make videos for a couple of days. I do have an old computer. We'll see how it works out. I'm sure I'll figure something out. But anyways, maybe I'll cover more of her town hall. It looks pretty disastrous across the board because she's just so, you know, it's her being inauthentic and artificial. Now, Anderson Cooper talking to that guy, Charlemagne the God, the T-H-A, God. And then talking about Kamala Harris being inauthentic. Everyone knows that, right? Like even someone as artificial and fake as Anderson Cooper. Like we saw him laugh and be drunk, and even when he's drunk, he's weird. And so, you know, they just don't know how to be themselves because they don't have anything inside them, right? There's people who just watch other people behave, and we all do that because, you know, I'm socially inept and socially, you know, I don't know what the right word was, the R word, you know, so, you know, I have social issues. And when you go to a social situation, especially if it's something new, you have to look around, see how other people are behaving, how they're dressing, and you have to conform to all that bullshit, right? And, you know, everybody does that to some extent, but there's other people who, you know, when they're by themselves or when they're with other people, they're still self-conscious. Even when they're with their spouses and their families and their dogs, they're still superficial and self-conscious, right? They're not who they are. And, you know, Kamala Harris is probably one of those people. Certainly Anderson Cooper is. But none of these people are like somebody that you can identify with when they're being themselves, right? And at least in Trump's case, and again, it's not why anybody should vote for him. He's able to be identifiable, but he's really weird too. He's not a normal person. And I don't mean normal as a good thing. He's not a functioning person, right? He's twisted and, he's got real issues, right? But either way, one of these dopes is going to be your president. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely points to the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.